All right. Okay. So, technical difficulties. What's new? What's new in my life? Um, what's new? Welcome in, y'all. We're going to play actual documentaries now about Teddy Roosevelt instead of just talking about the national parks. Some Teddy sprinkled in. Let's get down to it, bro. Let's talk about Teddy Roosevelt, the greatest president. Not the greatest president, the greatest American that's ever lived. Second greatest president. Um, yeah, and we'll keep playing Civilization. We will start prepping for and/or starting the war against Indonesia, if my computer ever works. Yeah, so where we left off, I got to continue exploring the map whenever this works, whenever this pops back up. Got to keep exploring the map a little bit, keep making trade deals. I got to get my economy up. Got to go to war with Indonesia. I'm pretty sure going to war will help me with the economy. Sometimes what you can just do in this game is just be at perpetual war. And what that does is not only do you get money out of like destroying your neighbor's stuff, like raiding their villages and stuff, like pillaging their lands and stuff, you can like get money from that. You can also get a bunch of money if you like capture a city. But also what happens is you lose your units. So as the opponent is killing your units as you're attacking, that frees up your maintenance cost. So as you're losing units, you actually like get your income source back. Your revenue is generated back. So we're going to try to maneuver that. I'm going to go to war with Indonesia, and hopefully that will fix my economy. Don't you? Sometimes playing this game, you start having sympathy for like the rulers of the world. You're like, oh, why did we go to Iraq? It was such a waste. It's like the whole economy. We could have gone into a Great Depression. Like World War II was bad, but it also like got us out of the Great Depression. So sometimes you understand what the real controllers of this world are up to when you play Civilization. You start understanding their motives, right? You might not even play. This might not even work. It's not loading. We're just gonna sit here. We're gonna sit here and ramble. Yeah, play the game. I'll start playing the Teddy docs, and yeah, this is from the History Channel. There's like a little preview. I'll play first. I haven't listened to this series at all, not even a little bit. I listened to the first 30 seconds of this preview just now. We'll listen to this, and then we'll listen to this series. And I'll talk along the way. I'll explain what I'm doing in the game, if and when it ever loads. But yeah, the goals of today, again, are kind of the same as last stream. Explore the map, uncover more of the map, and make some good trade deals, fix the economy. And now it's like all my focus and attention is really going to be on the war with Indonesia. It's inevitable. I'm tired of waiting for it to happen. And I'm going to be the one that attacks, not the one that defends. So, yep. Again, if it ever loads. We'll see if it ever loads.
Original podcast.
Everything can change in a moment. Theodore Roosevelt did everything he could to be ready for that moment.
He was a sickly child who few thought would even survive.
He had terrible asthma and really
seemed
to be one of those children that was destined to not reach adulthood.
A man marked by personal tragedy that most could never overcome.
He
suffers loss. He suffers grief.
The two most important women of his life have died in the same house on the same day.
But they should have renamed the Washington Redskins too.
Yet, the tireless champion of the underdog.
There were tremendous class divisions in society at the time, and there was serious discontent.
Here's a man who had everything: education, wealth, opportunities.
It was really the first time that people felt like the president would not automatically take the side of the rich.
A man of extraordinary resilience.
He woke up every day of his life saying, "Bring it on."
He gave an 84-minute address, bleeding from a chest wound.
Teddy, bro.
President Theodore Roosevelt.
Teddy, bro.
FTR, Teddy.
Theodore Roosevelt becomes, at 42 years old, the youngest president of the United States in history.
Magnetic.
There were thousands of people yelling and screaming like he's a rock star.
He was more than a president. He was
And we're going to convert more people. That's also that's the main overarching goal of this whole game. Is I want to convert the whole world to Christianity.
Frontier was the test.
So obviously we're going to be on
of
mission
American
to
A man of
convert the
limitless
heathens.
ambition for himself and for America.
He wanted to change the country.
He used his executive power in extraordinary ways to save more than 230 million acres of American land.
Who, at the dawn of the 20th century, saw that our place in history was the future.
The United States goes from a rather insular power to now being a global power.
You dragged America kicking and screaming into the 20th century.
From the History Channel, Making Teddy, a new 5-part season about the man whose limitless force of will helped propel a young nation onto the global stage.
He grasped the power of the presidency with both hands.
He makes the United States a global power.
He becomes a folk hero.
Making Teddy is hosted by me, Andre DeShields, and premieres Thursday, July 27th. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get
Lucky for us, July 27th is coming past, and this series is posted. So episode 1 is called The Sickly Son.
Original podcast.
The Sickly Son.
Everything can change in a moment. Theodore Roosevelt did everything he could to be ready for that moment.
Here's a man who had everything: education, wealth,
It's a replay of
opportunities.
the intro.
But he felt all of that must be used to help the lives of the unfortunate.
Fairness, justice, equity is what drove him. He was the first celebrity president.
He grasped the power of the presidency with both hands.
He had so much energy. He's always on his feet.
You dragged America kicking and screaming into the 20th century.
He was always moving forward to change things, to
Yeah,
make
that was
his
so
mark on
stupid
the
by
world.
me, sending this guy out here
Theodore Roosevelt,
unprotected. I got a little
our
too confident, a
26th
little too distracted.
president, was
Got-
the
got my
youngest
satellite
man
captured.
ever elected to the office.
Now it's Operation Get the
An
Hostage
heir
back.
to one of New York's
I lost some
richest
hostages
families,
here. I
goes
gotta
on
go
to become
defeat the
an
barbarians and
improbable
get my hostage back.
champion of the working man and protector of our wilderness. From the History Channel, this is Making Teddy. I'm your host, Andre DeShields.
Hello, Andre.
Get the best workout with the best kept
Hi,
secret in
Andre.
fitness. Hydro, the stay risk-free trial with
Theodore Roosevelt.
Go to hydro.com and use code ROW500 to save up to $500. That's HYDROW.com. Code ROW500.
Theodore Roosevelt
I'm
grows
gonna
up
try
in
my
a
best to skip
townhouse in
these guys.
Gramercy Park, one of New York City's wealthiest neighborhoods. His grandfather's family settled in New Amsterdam. The
Ooh,
original
Morocco's
name
trying
for
to-
New York
Morocco's
City
getting
in
feisty.
the early part of the 17th century.
Morocco's is getting feisty.
By the mid-1800s, Cornelius Roosevelt owned vast tracts of
I actually
land
might do
in
this.
Rome City.
So he wants me to go to war with him against someone who's so far away that it doesn't matter. I'm not in any threat or any danger with him. So I might as well join my best friend in his war, just to kind of show face, just to be like, hey there, hey bro, remember when I was with you? Hey bro, I was with you that one time. So, and it's against a nation that I'm pretty sure is about to be conquered. I think the reason why he wants to attack is because they are so weak that people are ready to just pick the bones of a crumbling empire. I think it's the Hiawatha. It's the ones that the Ottomans over in the east are currently probably just destroying and massacring and looting and pillaging, So I think he wants to get in on the action before it's too late. Maybe get a city or two out of it. And it's just the conflict is so far away that it doesn't matter. And I don't care about Hiawatha. He hasn't been good to me. He hasn't made any good trade deals with me. He hasn't been nice to me. Just neutral to me. Kind of negative, and that he won't give me open borders. But this guy's my best friend, and he wants to go to war. All right, bro. Just make sure, when I go to war with Indonesia, you're there with me too, So let's do it. We'll go to war. Sometimes I like to do the 10 turns, but I'll just do it. I'll just do it right away so that he goes right away and he can get his war started. He doesn't have to wait. So, yeah, I guess I'm now at war with What are they called? Iroquois. The Iroquois. So yeah, that's going to be here. He wants these two cities, I'm sure. So yeah, see, he's it looks like, who killed me? A crossbowman killed me? Maybe that's maybe that was from him. Yeah, the other thing I don't like is the Jews. the sneaky Jews over here. No, yeah, the Jewish. See how he's Jewish? Literally, the Jews of Onondaga, the Jewish religion, is pretty strong. It's pretty good. It's pretty big here. Their holy city here, Onondaga, and it's spreading. See how it's like spreading to the city states? And I had to come convert Cahokia because it's spread to Cahokia, and see it's even kind of spreading to Morocco, and I can't have that. And then where we left off was even in the world religion, Morocco was so influenced by these Jews, by the Jews, that they went ahead and proposed that it became the world religion. And I cannot have that. And honestly, if they got knocked down a peg or two and had some of these cities taken from them, and potentially even their capital, if someone came and took their capital, that would pretty much stop their spread of the religion. It would still happen. It's still going to happen. The religion kind of just naturally does spread. Once you fan the flames a little bit, it does like spread naturally. But what you can do is like what I did with this great prophet is like physically go convert cities. But yeah, this war is actually going to be very beneficial to me. It's going to be very beneficial to my number one ally, and it's going to stop the spread of the Jews into Asia. And if I could have it just contained to over here in like Turkey, he can have a little bit of Greece. He can do that, even though Greece is Palenque. Who is that? Maya? Yeah, the Maya. They're the Catholics. They are not even that strong, really. He's not really spreading too much. You know, you see a little bit of the influence. But early on, these Jews were pretty strong in converting. And I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. We're here to worship the one true Lord and Savior, you know? Not the synagogue of Satan. So yeah, it's going to be good. So if they can if Morocco can come and take these cities, that would be great for me. Maybe even these three, that'd be great. And then if the Ottomans can kind of just mess them up, distract them, weaken them, and potentially take this holy city, that would be good for me and my attempt to convert the pagans of this fictional world to Christianity. I just have to deal with the Catholics down here. Siam's got some goofy religion going on. Where's their holy city? Siamese got this goofy Buddhism thing going on. They're spreading it all over North Africa. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. See, it's creeping up into Spain. I don't like these dirty, sneaky Buddhists creeping up into Spain and converting my neighbors. I do not like that one bit. See, even Cape Town has a little bit of... See, it has 18 pressure. So, like, they're kind of being pressured a little bit to convert to Buddhism naturally. Like, just generally. Through trade and stuff, they get pressured. Through being near, like, close in proximity to cities, like right here, that are Buddhist. But see, I don't like this one bit. One bit. I'm going to need to come and let these people know what's up. And then there's some goofy, what is this? Zoroastrianism? Someone's Zoroastrian. Oh, yeah, Persia. That makes sense. So, yeah, Persia, Zoroastrian. I think that's going to just forever also kind of set them at war. Like we were talking about earlier. Like Persia and Siam are pretty much just destined to be at war for the whole game. And whoever wins that war is going to end up being pretty strong in the end. Even they came all the way over here to Mecca. They sent a prophet all the way up to Mecca and took my city that I converted to these goofy, dumb, pagan Zoroastrian religion. These dumb, goofy idiots over here fell for the schemes and the tricks of the evil, of the liar, of the deceiver, and became Zoroastrian right under my nose. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do, bro? Well, we are going to first and foremost continue our conversion of Morocco. We got one turn left. Sneaky Jews of the Iroquois, sneaky Iroquois Jews. Yeah. Yo, I'm listening and washing dishes. What's going on? Life to the max. How are you? How are you? My G. Life to the max. How you been? How you doing? Cool, I have a wrench. Oh yeah, you got a wrench. Oh yeah. Mods in the chat. Mods in the chat, baby. The flying spaghetti monster, yeah. I do not like it. Siam, I am. Siam, I am. Yeah, are you Siamese? Siamese? Is that right? Siamese? Is that how you say that? Or is that just how you say the cat? Is that just... Am I ignorant and that's just how you say the breed of cat? Yeah, these dirty Siamese over here. These dirty Siamese and their stupid Buddhist religions messing up my schemes, my plans, converting all the fictional pagans to the one true faith. Yeah. How did they balance this game without being politically incorrect? Oh, they didn't, dude. This game is so, like, not politically correct. You realize Christianity is like 2/3 pagan, right? No, it's not. Pagans became Christian, bro. Abrahamic religions are primarily Jew worshippers. No. That's not true. That's not true at all. You don't define Jew, because Jew is someone who came from the land of Judah. The tribes that were established in the nations of Judah. And the people who call themselves Jews today believe, maybe correctly, maybe incorrectly, that they are descended from specific tribes in the land of Judea. It has nothing to do with Hebrews. It has nothing to do with the faith. It has nothing to do with being the child of God. And anyways, Jesus came and abolished all of this anyways. He reestablished the law and established a new covenant, a new pact between us and God through him. And so no, we don't worship Jews, we worship God. We are not Jew worshipers, we are God worshipers, bro. I don't even know who you are, just coming in here hot, trying to get hostile, trying to start some crap. No, laugh out loud, no, I'm not a conjoined twin or that kind of slant. Siamese. Life is that kind of slant. What kind of slant are you? What kind of slant eye are you? Life to the max. Yeah. Life is going all right and cold. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's got to be really cold up there. It's cold enough down here that I complain. I can't imagine how cold it is up there with you. Jesus is not God. Laugh out loud. He's the Son of God. Yes, he is both. He is all of the above. Jesus was not Jewish? Question mark, question mark? No, bro. Jesus was God. No, bro. Jesus was a Christian. He was the first Christian. He was Christ. He was the Messiah. Partially sneaky Chinese, yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's one of the good kinds of slants, right? Aren't all you slants like actually really super racist? Aren't you the ones that are all like super racist with each other? Like, they're the good ones. They're the bad ones. Yeah. We love you, Life to the Max. You know I love you. Hope all is well. Hope you're cold. Hope your suffering with the cold is temporary. Very, very temporary and short-lived. So yeah, onward. Onward to colonizing over here. So again, if you missed, explained it at the end of the last stream. So what I'm doing right here with this little army over here is war with Indonesia right here is inevitable. So I got to really start actually building up a new army that I'm actually, my actual first real army I'm going to build up and attack this city and hopefully capture this city. And I'm going to bring the fighting here. Because war between us is inevitable, and I want the fighting to happen in and around this city and in this area on this side of the mountain range here. If you see, we can't pass, neither of us can pass through this mountain range. So this city's actually pretty well protected, like naturally from this. This is, as of right now, it's a neutral city-state, unless one of us becomes like friends, super-duper friends with them. Right now, Polynesia's super-duper friends with them. But as of right now, it's like a neutral country that like I could technically pass through. I'm probably not going to, but they can't or they won't pass through to get to me. So really when fighting breaks out, there's just a question mark around here, down this land pass right here. Can't go across this mountain range. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to fight basically over this. You know, it's based on which side of this unit right here, which side of this land square do we want to fight on. He's going to want to bring the fight to my side and make me play defense. I need to bring the fight to him, make him play defense. So that's kind of my goal. I also need iron, so that's a real thing. So I need to get my money up. I need to generate more income, which war is going to actually help with that overall. We'll see. I'll point that out as I go. But in general, I really need iron. I'm desperate for iron, especially as we start to get to the point where we are going to start building like powerful Navy ships. You need iron to build those ships. I only have 2 right now. Really not good. Really not a good state. So I'm actually sending settlers over and a small army. Basically my outdated army that is kind of almost like a kamikaze. Like I don't care about them. I can kind of just send them to die. It would actually be better for me in a little bit if they died, because it would like free up some money for me to build newer, better units in the future. I'm kind of sending this small, almost kind of suicidal army with this settler over here to acquire this and basically make a military base / an attacking point, so that when the war breaks out here and I'm fighting up here, I can have this like kind of secondary army over here that can kind of like, basically my goal is just to like annoy them and mess them up and distract them with this small outdated army over here. So I'll probably just be like an annoyance here. This is their capital. That's really what I need to do, is take their capital, but that's steps and steps and steps away. Step 1 is to get this city and really do my best to destroy as much of their military as possible. Step 2 is potentially take this city and really start destroying like all of their reinforcements that they send militarily. And then step 3 would be really start like causing some damage to their trade routes and their tiles, and then long-term goal is to come take Jakarta, their capital. That would pretty much, I mean, that would take them out of the game. If I took Jakarta and held on to it, they literally can't win the game. You have to have possession of your own capital to win the game. So the long-term goal is to work my way down and capture Jakarta, but the only way that's going to really happen is if I take these 2 cities and really win the war, like really mess them up militarily. And I am hoping that me joining the war over here, that I'm not going to fight at all. like 0% of me is sending a military unit at all over here. The closest thing is I have a ship kind of close, but I'm only using this really to like explore undiscovered land. And I have a great prophet here, and I did have a scout. If you see, my scout was destroyed by an enemy crossbowman. I think what that means is I got killed by one of his units, or Cahokia is allied with him. So I bet one of his crossbowmen were close enough to shoot me. But it's dumb that they shot my little scout instead of actually shooting these guys who are kind of powerful. He should have been focusing first on taking out the actual threat, not my little scout that was just escorting my prophet around. That's not going to do any damage to them at all. So yeah, Milan and Samarkand. Where's Milan? Milan's up here. Oh, Milan is mine, and they declared war. and Samarkand is mine, and they declared war. Okay. So yeah, so Samarkand is my ally, my super duper ally over here, and so is Milan. And so because I'm now at war, because now that me and Morocco are at war with the Iroquois, all of my super duper allies have automatically declared war. And because Cahokia is allied with the Iroquois, they have now declared war on Morocco and me. So these two city-states are now at war because they are like our puppets. And we're making our little puppets fight each other, basically. This dude's just coming in trying to start stuff on a Saturday. I'm just trying to have a fun game where I conquer the world, a fictional world, bro. You're coming in trying to be hostile and mean and agitate and provoke. Made in USA review. Okay, bro. I'm not even going to read your comments. They're so stupid. They're so dumb. I'm telling you the truth. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're just provoking. You're just being annoying. You're just being annoying. Sorry you're getting butthurt. I'm not butthurt at all. I'm not butthurt at all. I'm trying to enjoy a game. I'm trying to listen to Teddy Roosevelt documentaries, bro. Not explain to you why you're incorrect about Abrahamic religions. Not like, yeah. Christians pagan, bro. Christians pagan, bro. No, pagans became Christians. And Christians took what was the pagans and they made it ours. We made it ours. Oh yeah, you're doing a little thing called Christmas? Thank you. We'll take that. That's ours now. That's ours now. Thank you. Thank you. It's now ours. Oh, Valentine's Day? That's a pagan holiday? Thank you. That's ours now. We're going to take that. That's ours. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We will now do that. We will now take that. That is now our possession. You are Jews. Okay. No, the Jews are Jews. We are not Jews. You idiot. How do you not realize you are the Goy slave? Yeah, okay, bro. Go be angry and sad somewhere else, dude. Go be angry and sad somewhere else. Go talk your trash somewhere else, dude. I do not care. I promise you, I do not care. I do not care what some random guy has to say on the internet, dude. I do not care. I'm trying to conquer a fictional world right now in peace. Leave me alone. I'm trying to convert non-existent people to Christianity in this fictional game right now, bro. Leave me alone. Life to the Max says, haha, slants are super racist. I can't even tell the difference between slants because didn't grow up in our Asian community. Thank you for declaring the blessing of short-lived cold. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, bro. Yeah, you're cool. You win, dude. You're so smart. You're so smart and you're so right, bro. Congratulations, you just won. I'll stop. I'll just stop. You're on my page. You're on my page being ridiculous right now in my comment section. You won, dude. Congratulations, you won. Now just leave. You feel free to just leave. Go watch your other channels where they talk bad about people and they hate other people and they get angry at other people. Just go. Just go. No one's stopping you. No one's stopping you from going to like any other page and any other channel on any other website and like having your little fun, like we hate everyone. I'm angry and I hate people and I blame other people for the problems in my life kind of thing. You're so free to go do that, dude. You're so free to just go do that. You should just go do that. You should just go do that. We're over here trying to listen to Teddy Roosevelt documentaries and convert fictional people to Christianity. All right? So I'm on a mission. I'm getting back to my mission. You're so free to leave, dude. Just go. Just go. Spew your hatred somewhere else.
He founded a bank that would eventually become Chase Bank. Roosevelt's father, Theodore Sr., was a philanthropist who founded...
We're going to get back to talking about the greatest American of all time. Made in USA review. We're going to talk about the greatest man ever made in the USA. That's what we're about to do.
And the American Museum of Natural History. Theodore Roosevelt Jr. is born in 1858, one of 4 children. Khalil Gibran Muhammad is professor of history at Harvard's Kennedy
You're so
School.
cool, bro.
Teddy Roosevelt comes of age in one of the most tumultuous times in American history. There was no way to be part of the United States in the early 1860s without understanding the existential threat posed by the Civil War itself.
Teddy is just 6 years old when President Abraham Lincoln is assassinated. Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin describes the memorial procession in New York.
After Abraham Lincoln's assassination in 1865, a train carried his body home to Springfield. The cortege stopped in major cities along the way. In New York, 100,000 people lined the streets, an enormous crowd at that time. They were drawn together in disbelief that the leader who had carried them through the...
Hey, thanks, bro. You might have a super duper gay hat on, but thanks, bodybuilder bro. Thank you, trend bro. Definitely on trend. Thanks, trend bro. Oh my gosh. The prove you're a robot stuff is getting so ridiculous these days, dude. Just let me click the button and hit accept. I don't need 18 pictures of chaotic scenery where it's like impossible. Like select the motorcycle, and it's like, do I select this box? It also has like 1/8 of an inch of a part of a motorcycle in it. Do I select that as part of the motorcycle? Verify. Authentication mismatch, yeah. So I needed to click the tiny little sliver, the box with the tiny little sliver of a motorcycle tire in it. Okay. So dumb. Just let me click the box that says I'm not a robot. Let me just log in. I'm trying to just ban this idiot. I'm trying to just get this idiot out of my chat. How do I do that? Whatever. Dude. Whatever, dude. Why is DLive so gay? Why is DLive so gay, and why is it full of gays? Dude. So yeah, back to the actual game. What he was what gay trend bro, what Polynesian trend bro was warning me about is his computer has detected that the Indonesian computer is plotting against me, which means they're probably sneaking around trying to get allies to start a war against me, or they're probably secretly building up a military to attack me. But little does he know that I'm also plotting against him. Little does he know I also am trying to get one up on him and plot against him simultaneously. So we'll see how this goes. We got two countries clearly destined for war, plotting and scheming against each other. Let's just see how this plays out. Let's see who wins. Game on, brother. Game on, brother. Challenge accepted, brother. We are going to build so many muskets. And see, I'm playing catch up because my economy was so bad for so long. I really have to like scramble and play catch up right now. Neglected my economy for too long. Why is this so gay? Man, where's a mod when you need it? Where's a mod when you need it? I think Life to the Max is just my mod on YouTube. Where's my DLive mods when you need them? Where are my DLive mods when an anti-Semite's in my chat causing problems? When a European pagan worshiper, white race worshipers in my chat. Where's my mods when you need them to kick him out? Kick him back to the curb stomp him like you deserve. No, we're kidding. We're kidding. Jokes. Nothing but jokes, people. Where are my mods to chop down this man's trees, force his people to convert to Christianity by sword, by pain of sword? This is Civilization 5, by the way. Civilization 5, and I forgot to send the things out, the texts out. And then we'll get back to the real show, Teddy Roosevelt. We're here to listen to Teddy Roosevelt, y'all. Not argue with anti-Semites, stupid anti-Semites in my chat. So yeah, this guy, I'm at war with this guy. Not good. Very annoying. Very annoying that he's coming after me. But good luck. I wish you good fortune in the wars to come, sir. Yeah. Ivanti in the chat says good old Civ 5, better than Civ 6. It's crazy how much better it is than Civ 6. Like, I know they had to make a different game in order to like justifying selling a new game. Like, they had to make the game different. But it's crazy how much better it is. Like, how much worse Civ 6 is. It's not that it is a bad game necessarily. It's like it would be a good game if Civ 5 never existed. You know? It's just one of those things like if Civ 6 happened, everyone would be like, that's a great game. And then if Civ 5 was after it, people would be like, man, they made an even better game after Civ 6 somehow. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just nuts how, like, if they would have just flipped the games around, people would be like, man, Civilization never misses. They made Civ 5, which is really Civ 6. Like, oh, this is a great game. And then they made Civ 5, which was actually Civ 6 after. People are like, whoa, how'd they possibly do it? They made an even better game. But instead, it's like, man, Civ 5 is so much better than the new one they put out. They tricked me into buying. That's kind of how that went. That's kind of how that went down. So yeah, this is Civ 5, Civilization 5. It's so much better than Civilization 6. If you're looking to buy this game, buy this game. Don't go like, oh, there's a Civilization 6. I saw him playing Civ 5. That looks interesting. I want to play it. No. Do not waste your money on the 6. Just get 5 and buy all the expansion packs and downloads and stuff. So much better. But again, guys, we're going to get into Teddy Roosevelt. We're talking about Teddy Roosevelt here, guys. Not getting in fights with trolls. You said hope in your bio, but I don't have a hope for Civ 7. I mean, dude, always have hope. Always have hope for something greater. There's always something greater on the horizon for you. There's always something greater on the horizon for you. One day. Have hope. Do not lose hope. Do not fear. Have hope. Back to Teddy Roosevelt. Back to the wars ahead. Again, I guess I'll just keep that. Again, it's clear he's coming for me. I'm not even feeling as bad about it. I was all in a strategic mindset of like, look, if I want to win this game, I got to attack first. But now it's pretty clear. I mean, my random trend dude on the other side of the map's like, hey, bro, they're coming for you. Hey, bro, they're scheming, they're plotting, they're coming for you. You know what I mean? So it's time to take them seriously. It's time to really build up an army and get on with the war ahead with Indonesia. That's inevitable. So we're going to do that. And we're going to listen to Teddy Roosevelt. And we're going to get ready for the war to come.
Civil War had been shot. They sang, they held hands, they wept. They carried signs. One placard said, "Mankind has lost a friend."
Teddy watches from the high window of his grandfather Cornelius's Union Square mansion. Historian Clay Jenkinson describes a photograph taken on that day. It shows two children looking down on the crowds.
If you look closely at the second floor of this mansion, you see two little faces peering above the windowsill. That was TR and his brother Elliot. TR was 6, almost 7, and his brother was 5.
Here we have our future 26th president looking down at the casket of our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, the man that Theodore Roosevelt would revere the rest of his life. What an uncanny and symbolic moment. Theodore was a son of privilege. The Roosevelt family stood at the very top of New York society. His grandfather was one of the 5 wealthiest people in the city of New York.
But Roosevelt learns that, along with privilege, comes his family's expectation of generosity to those less fortunate. Edward T. O'Donnell is Associate Professor of History at the College of the Holy Cross.
Theodore's father believes very firmly that to be a real citizen, to be a man, to be a Christian meant that you could enjoy wealth and privilege, but you had to use your wealth and your talent to help the lives of the unfortunate. And he's going to instill that in young Theodore. He'll take Theodore with him to visit the orphan boys and the vulnerable and to see the underside of the city and really constantly instruct him that as you grow up, this is something you must carry on.
And Roosevelt feels that expectation deeply.
So dumb, dude.
He often accompanies his father on his trips to the orphanages and charities he supported.
His father was the hero that he really admired. He said his father was his best friend, his companion, the greatest man he ever knew.
Not
but his
this
father
stupid
worried
robot
about his
thing
beloved
again.
son.
Identified what squares have bicycles in them.
He's underweight. He's frail.
He had terrible asthma.
There's 16 squares, and maybe 6 or maybe 9 of them have bicycles in them. I don't know. Yes. Prove you're not a robot. Make an educated guess.
In order to kind of protect him from
There we go.
the infirmities
All
that
right.
he suffered from.
TR was
There we go, guys. There we go. All right. We're finally, we can actually finally log in to our D Live, and we can ban and delete Made in USA review. Because you know what? We don't take kindly to anti-Semitism around here. We don't take kindly. I mean, I do. I'll tolerate it, just not anti-Christianity. Not anti. You talk bad about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. You come in hostile and aggressive. You come in trying to be mean and provoke me, while I'm trying to peacefully convert the pagans of this fictional world and conquer them at the same time and destroy their empires. You come in here, you get hostile with me and angry with me, chippy with me. Well, ban and delete. Look at this button here in D Live. I finally got it working. Delete and banned. Should I? I should, right? Wrong saloon, partner. You're in the wrong saloon. Delete and ban. Out of here. You're out of here, son. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. He's out of here. We're trying to conquer Indonesia today. Not getting debates about Abrahamic religions.
very aware of how sick he was. When he had those asthma
Not
attacks,
getting
he would
debates
feel
about how
like he was
awesome Christians
suffocating
are, that they
or
conquered the pagans. We're not trying to get in a debate here about how great and awesome Christianities were. How great Christianities were for bringing civilization to the dirty, filthy pagans of Europe.
drowning. Consequence, he worried.
To the orphanages and
Let's get back to
charities
Teddy
he supported.
Roosevelt. Let's get back to Teddy Roosevelt. Jack, my
Father was the
boy.
hero.
Today, Sean, today is the day. Conquering war and victory. Psalms 33:12.
That he really admired.
What is that?
He said his father
Psalms
was his best
33:12.
friend, his companion, the greatest man he ever knew. But his father worried about his beloved son.
TD, as he was called. TD is sickly. He's underweight. He's frail.
He had terrible asthma and really seemed to be one of those children that was destined to not reach adulthood. And so as a consequence...
Psalms 33:12 says Jack in my chat, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen for his own inheritance. The Lord looks from heaven. He sees all the sons of mankind. From his dwelling place he looks out." Yes.
He was kept at home. He was in many ways babied by the family in order to kind of protect him from the infirmities that he suffered from.
TR was very aware of how sick he was. When he had those asthma attacks, he would feel like he was suffocating or drowning.
Slaps
and
hard.
then he heard his parents say that they were worried that he might not live. Just imagine what that's like for a little kid to hear that he might die.
Because TR couldn't go to school and couldn't do what other children do, couldn't play outside much. He became bookish. He began to read books about boys that go off into the frontier and do great things and kill a buffalo and save pioneer families.
He actually put himself into the adventures of the people.
Operation Build an Army is
explorers and
underway,
the deer
my
slayers.
dudes.
Roosevelt's
Operation
lifelong interest
Build an
in
Army
zoology
is
begins at
underway.
age 7, when he sees a dead seal at a local market. He manages to bring the seal's head home with him, and he and his 2 cousins set up what they name the Roosevelt Museum of Natural History.
He got into collecting birds and insects. His shelves in his room were so filled with dead objects that poor Elliot begged to have another room.
He teaches himself some basic taxidermy, then fills his makeshift museum with animals that he
What a
kills
weirdo.
or
What a
traps
hilariously
himself.
awesome weirdo.
He arranges them in displays. At age 9,
What a hilariously
Roosevelt
awesome
writes a
weirdo.
paper entitled The Natural History of Insects. Historian H.W. Brands is professor at the University of Texas at Austin.
Theodore Roosevelt didn't have a lot of friends when he was a kid because he was mostly housebound. And so his father was his confidant. He was his model. He was the one who urged Theodore Roosevelt to make himself strong. And so it really was this model that Theodore Roosevelt tried to live up to.
Roosevelt Sr. thinks that building his son's physical strength will give him his best chance at a longer life.
And his father goes to him and challenges him.
This need to prove himself through sheer willpower is one of the principal motivating forces in the entire life of Theodore Roosevelt.
He took up that challenge with every bone of his body. He just said, "I'll make my body." And by God did he. He was in that gym that his father provided for him day after day. And it becomes the challenge for the rest of his life.
It's a philosophy Roosevelt will later describe in a defining 1899 speech.
Operation Rescue the
as a strenuous
Hostages.
life, saying,
Operation Rescue the Hostages is underway. We need to get our settler back. We're going to put this other settler in Sardinia. And we got to build up a little bit of a navy. Not to actually invade or do anything serious, but what we need to do is mess up his trade. When we go to war with Indonesia, what I'm going to need to do is have some ships down here messing with him, basically. That's kind of my plan. It's just to kind of mess with his trade, mess with his ability to move units around in the ocean. So I need to build up a little bit of a navy. And, yeah.
a life of ignoble ease, a
Keep it
life of that
pushing.
peace which brings merely from lack either of desire or of power to strive after great things, is as little worthy of a nation as of an individual. Teddy's father also had the highest aspirations for Roosevelt's education, despite the fact that his health required him to be homeschooled through adolescence.
Roosevelt entered Harvard because his family was well connected. He wanted to be a big man on campus. He could box, he could wrestle, but he was not well coordinated.
Base.
He had terrible eyesight. But he was determined.
When TR entered Harvard, he was not very cool. He had these side whiskers, these bright red cheeks, those metal-rimmed glasses, and he was pretty awkward. He had been homeschooled, so he wasn't used to being with other kids. And then in his room, he had the dead lizards and the dead steaks, and the smell of formaldehyde followed him everywhere he went.
He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't swear. He finds out that many of his fellow
What a
classmates
G,
are heading
dude.
off to Boston's brothels and gambling dens. And he's really So he doesn't make many friends with that attitude.
Historian
What
Stacey
a
Inquiry
gangster, bro.
says none of this stopped him from performing at the highest level academically
He
during
didn't
his
care
time
what
at
anyone
Harvard.
thought about him, bro.
He was loud, he could be obnoxious, he was opinionated, but he was interested in excelling. He worked hard at every class, he got A's, and embraced political science and history.
No matter how strange he might have seemed at the start, there was something about his warmth, his curiosity, his irrepressible energy that just won people over. He became one of them, and he became quite popular at Harvard.
And then this is interesting. He wants me to fight against my number one best friend ally when you've been nothing but neutral to me the whole game. You think I'm gonna turn on my best friend for just some random guy holding a sword? You think coming at me with a bunch of swords? He's got 3 swords, dude. You think holding a bunch? You think wearing some fancy little armor, some pretty boy little armor, and holding 3 swords is gonna make me want to come to war with you against my best friend, bro? I will die. I will die with my best friend. Until the inevitable day comes where he turns his back on me and betrays me, until then, I will die alongside my best friend. How dare you? How dare you, sir? Yeah, that's disappointing. How dare you is my response to you, sir. I don't care how many swords you have. You could bring 6 next time. Bring 6 swords with you next time. The answer stays the same. I will die alongside my best friend in this fictional game. I'll die alongside my brother in Christ in real life, but in this game, in this fictional game, I will die with my fictional friend.
He does particularly well in science and philosophy. He was already an accomplished
How dare you, sir.
self-taught naturalist and a published
You come with like 9
ornithologist.
swords, we'll start sitting at the table and discussing matters, you know?
Later in life,
Come
though,
with 9 swords
he
next time.
remarks that his education at Harvard disappointed him. The biographer Henry F. Pringle wrote that he had been depressed by the formalistic treatment of many subjects, by the rigidity, the attention to minutiae that were important in themselves, but which somehow were never linked up with the whole. Roosevelt throws himself into athletics, rowing crew and boxing. He joins the prestigious social club, the Porcellian, and he falls in love.
While he was at Harvard, he saw across the crowded room Alice Hathaway Lee, this beautiful Boston debutante.
And she made quite an impression on him because he came home and wrote in his diary, "I'm going to marry that woman."
No sooner does he meet Alice Lee than he launches a crusade to make this young woman his wife.
But just when he finds love, tragedy
Trying
strikes.
to riz her
Gets a
up.
telegram saying that his father is dying, and he
to
rushes
riz
home.
her up.
By the time he gets there, his father is already dead.
Trying to riz this
Only
girl up.
46 years old.
His father was suffering from stomach cancer. The family had kept the
Yeah,
illness
you're not
from
coming
Roosevelt,
anywhere close to
not
me, bro.
wanting to worry him while he was
What do you
off
think
at
you're
college.
doing over here?
Flags are at half-mast throughout the city. They talked about him.
I'm the one that sends settlers into your lands and settles them. You don't do that, bro. You don't do that to me. I'm the one who invades your territory. You don't do that to me. See, he's coming. He's coming for me. He's stirring the pot. He's
One of the
starting some
greatest
stuff.
philanthropists that New York
He's
had
gotta
ever
go.
known.
He's gotta
And
go.
the rich and the poor followed
The writing's
him
on
to
the wall,
grave.
bro. You
It was
gotta
a
go.
terrible, terrible time for him. He said that if he had too much time on his hands, he would literally go crazy.
Roosevelt's only 19, and it's really the first body blow that life deals Theodore Roosevelt. And he does what's going to be characteristic in the other dark moments and big challenges in his life, and engages in intense physical activity.
For the first time, Roosevelt learns how much solace the wilderness can bring.
In the months after his father's death, he went to Maine, where he'd be out in the
Hostages
woods. He became
recovered.
busy day after day. 2 guides in Maine, Bill Sewell and Will Dow, take him under their wing. And the extraordinary thing is they know he's fragile, but he actually has an asthma attack while he's there with them, and it doesn't stop him one bit. Every night he's bunking with the woodsmen. And these are people who may not have been able to write their own name, but he loved listening to their stories. And Sewell said you could see that night that wherever he went, he got connected with the people. He enjoyed listening to them, empathizing with them, learning their stories, and make some sort of connection that will last for the rest of his life with many of these people.
And Fez becomes
Roosevelt
Christian.
has a gift for getting along with people.
And the city of Fez becomes Christians, baby. Let's rejoice in the name of the Lord. The fictional people of Fez, fictional residents of Fez, are now following God and his right ways. Now I just got to convert the rest of his empire. Tangier, Marrakesh is crucial to get his capital. That'll resonate loudly. Maybe I'll convert Milan along the way. But I got to get Mecca. I got to get these pagan Zoroastrians out of Mecca. I cannot have these goofy Zoroastrians dancing around in Mecca thinking they own the place. Got to send this prophet here and convert them back.
Of every ilk. Jared Cohen is the author of Accidental Presidents.
It's one of the things that's really remarkable about him. Despite being a wealthy gentleman from New York City, he can mix with anybody. He never tries to be someone that he's not, and his authenticity makes him quite relatable to people who he really has nothing in common with.
He comes back to Harvard. He's stronger, more confident, even more passionate about Alice Lee, and they announce their engagement on St. Valentine's Day.
They're married on Roosevelt's 22nd birthday. They go back to New York City.
In December of 1880, after a European honeymoon, Teddy and Alice return home. He enrolls at Columbia Law School. Roosevelt writes of this time, "I am living in a dream of delight with my darling, my true love." But he has not yet chosen a career. It is at this point that Roosevelt discovers that he must chart the true direction his life will take.
Finding your perfect home was hard, but thanks to Burrow, furnishing it has never been easy. I'll get 50.
It's all harvested by data brokers and sold URA.
His footsteps, that he would get
Who cares?
involved
Let's
in
get
the
back to Teddy,
philanthropic
bro.
boards that his father had been so important.
Back to Teddy.
He began to realize that if he got into government, that government could take care of some of the underlying problems that the philanthropic world had addressed. He decided, my mission is going to be the betterment of New York City's government.
Politics appeals to Roosevelt's competitive spirit, his sense of civic duty, his love of being center stage. This is an era when the contrast between the haves and the have-not in New York is at its most stubborn.
Clutch.
Richard Sachs is the author of Island of Vice.
At the time, the poverty and the wealth
Riga
were so
is number
extreme
one
in Europe.
ally.
It
Number
was
one
a
best
gilded
friend,
age.
Riga.
The millionaires at J.P. Morgan and Vanderbilt, the size of their mansions, just extraordinary in Fifth Avenue. And then you go down to the Lower East Side and see such just brutal poverty, full of so many new immigrants. More than 2/3 of the city was either foreign-born or first generation.
Immigrants were taken advantage of because they didn't speak the language by capitalists who were looking to make a profit.
And there was no safety net. There is no minimum wage. There is no social security. People starved to death in New York City.
Roosevelt is impatient. He's intent on entering politics where he believes he can make a difference. But the political system plays by its own rules.
In those days, to break into a party, you had to belong almost to a club. So you had to find where the headquarters were, and they were in a big room above a saloon, Morton Hall. So he just started going there and hoped that he would be accepted as part of the Republican Party.
Theodore Roosevelt was attracted to the Republican Party because it was his father's party, and it was the party of Abraham Lincoln.
He doesn't quite fit in anywhere, yet he can get along with anyone. His personable nature works just as well with party bosses as with fur trappers in Maine. And so, in 1881, he runs for office and wins. And just as he did at Harvard, Roosevelt stands out from the crowd.
Theodore Roosevelt is elected to the New York State Assembly. TR shows up in Albany as a 23-year-old freshman state assemblyman. Of course, he's got his own outfit, custom tailored for the experience.
Black and white photos of the state legislature might show a lot of people wearing jackets and ties, but it's a rough place filled with rough, heavy drinking, tough people. And along comes this silk stocking
That's
elitist.
it.
He just seems ripe for a bully to come along and pick on him. And that's precisely what happens. And so Roosevelt realizes that he can't just simply be moral. He just can't simply be brilliant. He actually has to get in the ring. If the situation required it, he had to put up his dukes and fight.
So, Roosevelt does just that. He would later say, "Don't hit at all if you can help it. Don't hit a man if you can possibly avoid it. But if you do hit him, put him to sleep."
He regards politics as a fight between good and evil. So he gets on the floor and he yells at his Democratic opponents. He says they're rotten, they're corrupt. And he makes lots of enemies doing this. After a while, the Republicans even begin to get irritated with him. He had risen like a rocket.
See if
in New
that
York.
works
Of
out.
course
Taking
they
a
loved
risk
those
there. Let's see if
fiery
that works
speeches.
out.
But then he realized he was crashing like a rocket. And he finally realizes that he's alienated everybody and he can't get anything done. And the good thing was he understood that he had a swelled head. He tones down his rhetoric. He reaches across the aisle to the Democrats. He makes friends again with his fellow Republicans. And he really becomes an effective legislator.
He learns how to play by the rules and to work with his colleagues in the State House. But he remains...
And Made in the USA Review, if you're still watching. You can't comment anymore, and your comments aren't here anymore, because I deleted them. Because you're gone, because you're banned for life. But if you're still watching, watch this. Watch me convert your dumb, stupid pagans to my quote-unquote Jew-worshipping religion. All right? Watch this. Deus Vult, baby. Mecca, your little pagan Mecca, is now Christ followers. Take that. Take that. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're going to sit there in silence on your stupid DLive website. You're going to sit there in silence and watch me convert your stupid pagans to the one true faith. All right? All right? You heard? All right? You liked it? You like it? I don't care if you don't like it. You're going to like it. You're going to respect it. You're going to watch it. Now back to Teddy Roosevelt, the greatest American. The greatest American made in the USA, by the way.
an independent thinker.
When he was new to the New York legislature, it was assumed that he would vote as his social class voted in all bills, and these bills would favor the wealthy.
There was a cigars reform bill that was going to prohibit the manufacture of cigars in private houses and tenement houses.
Cigars at that time were made in people's homes. Horrible, squalid, small, dark, awful places where usually immigrants labored almost around the clock. If cigars were made at home, then the cigar companies made a lot of money.
When the cigar bill first comes to the floor, he gives a passionate speech against it. All of his life's learning had taught him that the government had no right to interfere with the rights of private property. In fact, he had voted against minimum wage bills, working condition changes on that very philosophical understanding.
And Roosevelt assumed that the home manufacture of cigars was just fine.
When Samuel Gompers, who went on to become an extremely important labor leader, said, look,
Can you say based?
on a little inspection tour. Roosevelt didn't say no, or I'll send an aide, or give me a report. He said, of course.
Roosevelt decides to go see firsthand what the working conditions are like.
He takes up Gompers' challenge. But also, it's his native curiosity, the same curiosity that made him want to understand what it was like for the woodsmen to live in the woods all their lives. Now he wants to see what is life like for these people living in the tenement, and what he sees stuns him.
The visit makes an enormous impression on him. Though Roosevelt grew up in this very city, he is shocked at what he sees.
They lived under conditions where plaster was falling off the walls. The ceilings were a constant wet puddle.
This isn't happening. I don't know where you're sending this guy, but it's not happening, bro.
Every corner of the room. They might.
You think you're gonna put a city here or something? It's not happening, bro.
With tuberculosis and other contagious
I might literally need to go to war
They're
before I'm
absolutely
even close to
desperate.
being
They'll do
ready,
whatever it takes to put
just to
a tin
prevent
of
him
food
from
on the
putting a
table
city
for their
near me.
children. They can't protect their own value as laborers. And Roosevelt underwent a kind of conversion experience over this. He gained, I think, a sense that he was on the side of the underdog.
And that first-hand experience is the thing he will crave the rest of his life, to see conditions the way they really are, to feel empathy and understand how other people are living, and then he's able to say, I'm going to make this difference.
This is the first inkling that he gets that his father's style of public duty is not enough. The only way this problem is going to be fixed is not through philanthropy. The problem of exploited workers is going to be fixed by law.
When he returns to Albany, he surprises everyone by siding with the rights of workers over the interests of business. Edward Kahn is a professor of history at Norwich University.
Roosevelt came out in favor of the cigar reform bill, and he went to the Democratic governor at the time, Grover Cleveland, who's skeptical of the bill, to lobby for this with the governor.
The bill passes. Roosevelt was so excited knowing that it would change the conditions of life for the people who were in those tenement houses.
This is just the first example, really, of Roosevelt betraying his class, of Roosevelt looking out for the poor.
And then, in short...
So real quick, this guy, he's trying to be real sneaky like I'm being sneaky. He's just not doing a good enough job of it. So I'm real sneaky over here, and I'm moving a settler, and I'm going to put a settler here so I can get this iron and these dyes and have, like I was saying earlier, kind of like a staging ground, like a miniature little military base of operations to basically just conduct like Cossack-style raids. Some annoyances over here with my outdated military that I don't care at all about, and I don't really want to spend money upgrading them. And honestly, it would kind of be better if they died at this point to free up some of my maintenance costs so that I can rebuild a better, stronger army. So I'm kind of almost on like a half suicide mission, half just extract the resources mission kind of thing. Putting a city here, like, clearly in their land, clearly like around them where they didn't develop in Spain, which is clearly like their territory. But he's coming over here and doing the same thing. He's trying to do the same thing with this sneaky little settler right here. So I don't know where he's going yet. We'll see. But he's clearly doing the same thing. My guess is he's probably going to be right here in the middle somewhere. Or maybe he tries to like sneak somewhere where there's a resource I haven't gotten to. Maybe up here by the silk, except I'm about to do that. But we'll see where he puts this little city. And when he does that, I mean, hey, not technically in the game, but I'm going to say that's an act of war. I know I'm doing it first, but I'm doing it better. And my people will see that as an act of war. Like if you come right into the middle of my empire and try to put a city, put a military base, essentially, act of war, baby. And when I build this army, when I finally get these musketmen and these cannons pumped out, churned out, and I have a sizable army, target number one is for sure going to be that. It's almost going to be practice time on that city. And then it's going to be, like I was saying earlier, the main big theater of war is going to be all around here by this city. So again, got to build this military up, and it's war. I mean, war is on the horizon. He's probably going to attack soon, and if not, I'm going to have to find a way to attack as soon as possible as well.
The bill got overturned by the
in
courts.
a not stupid way.
He thought, well, what does it mean when you finally get a legislative body to do the right thing, only to have it vetoed by unelected court justices?
Roosevelt would later say, "It was this case which persuaded me to the fact that the courts were not necessarily the best judges of what should be done to better social and industrial
What a horrible
conditions.
impression of his
They
voice.
knew nothing whatever of tenement house conditions. They knew nothing whatever of the needs of the life and labor of 3/4 of their fellow citizens in great cities." This is the moment when Roosevelt realizes that the system, as it exists, is not capable of real reform.
He was shocked at what he saw in Albany. The graft, the corruption, these people who are getting the bribes, insisting on the bribes, paying off judges.
So he decides on a different approach, to change the system.
He starts investigating corruption. Newspapers couldn't get enough of it.
Even from his first days in the assembly, he understood the power of the press, and he made friends with the people who were covering the assembly.
Roosevelt becomes a very savvy politico about how to get things done, who to align with, and how to get the public on your side. Increasingly, people are making decisions about politicians based on what they would read in the newspapers.
By the time he's reached that second term in his legislature, he's championing a series of reform bills, and he really feels like he's become a leader and he has the reins in his hand.
His political career is on the rise, and he has just become a father. 3 Freed Roosevelt is Theodore Roosevelt's great-grandson.
Back in New York City at the time, his new wife, Alice, was pregnant. They were about to have their first child when he received a telegram telling him that his wife had produced a baby girl.
It's a moment of great celebration, cigars, and congratulations all around. And then a second
Iroquois getting
telegram arrived.
feisty around Sicily.
You must come home at once. Your wife
You know what
is
time
dying,
it is.
and your mother
You
is
know
dying
what time
too.
it is.
It was incomprehensible. His mother had contracted typhoid fever just in the week that she came there to help take care of Alice, who was dying from complications of childbirth.
So he got on the train and inched his way down to the city. It was the longest train journey of his life.
By the time he got to New York, it was in the middle of the night.
His brother Elliot meets him at the door and says to him, "There's a curse on this household."
It's Valentine's Day, 1884. Theodore Roosevelt sits by his mother's bed as she dies from typhoid fever. Just a few hours later, he holds his young wife Alice in his arms as she too dies from Bright's disease.
The two most important women of his life have died in the same house on the same day, within hours of each other.
In his diary, Roosevelt writes a large X on the page, followed by the words, "The light has gone out of my life." After the funeral, he writes, "For joy or for sorrow, my life has now been lived out." In a single day, he has lost almost everything.
He thought that his life was effectively over. He went to the Little Missouri River Valley in Dakota Territory, the Badlands. The starkness and the ruggedness, the drama of it had a deep appeal to him. He really believed that there was nothing further for him in New York City. And so he went there thinking that he might never return.
The wide open West just captured his spirit. He had come to believe that the frontier was the test of the American character.
The Badlands was no place for a gentleman from New York. This was a rough place.
That's next time on Making Teddy. Making Teddy is a podcast from the History Channel, produced by Best Case Studios.
All right, next
For the
episode,
History
The
Channel.
Strenuous Life of Teddy Roosevelt.
The History Channel.
Greatest
original
American of all
podcast.
time.
After Alice dies, TR is devastated.
What did that
So he
say?
decides
He's
to
rocking
start
and
a
rolling. He's
new
moving somewhere.
existence in North Dakota.
It was
I
a
don't like
perfect
it.
place
I don't
for
like
him
it one
to
bit.
read, to write, to
I don't like
reflect,
it one
to
bit.
grieve, to hunt, and to seek
Poor
adventure.
Teddy. Yeah, poor Teddy.
Roosevelt called it a grim fairyland because it was a real darkly romantic landscape.
The wide open West just captured his spirit. He had come to believe that the frontier was the test of the American character.
From the History Channel, this is Making Teddy. I'm your host, Andre DeShields.
It is like Poor Teddy. Life of the Max says Poor Teddy in the chat. It is Poor Teddy, but watch the man rise. Watch the man take the adversity in his life, the destruction, the death, and the despair in his life, and turn it around and crush and build and say, you know what? I could give up right now, or I could just go for it. I could just keep walking forward into my destiny as a legendary man. I could give up right now. Oh, poor me, sad me. My life's all bad. Or I can turn things around. I can pick myself up by the bootstraps and go on forward and crush and become a legend and do great things for many, many millions of people, if not billions of people. That's what a great man does. He picks himself up, gets back up, doesn't lose hope at all, doesn't despair, carries on, keeps taking those steps forward into the positive, righteous direction, and just keeps crushing, bro. Just keeps becoming a better man, a more righteously masculine man every single day, every single hour, every single minute. He conquers, he explores, he tames the wilderness. He risks it all. And he wins. And he
2024 is
wins.
all about new beginnings. And to help you become the best version of yourself this year, Cerebral just outlined a customized plan with clear milestones.
And he
along
skips
the way.
the
So you
advertisements.
can
And then
get
the
to
great
feeling your
man
best in
skips the
2024.
advertisements and gets on with the actual point
Theodore
of the
Roosevelt is a
documentary.
man consumed by grief. His mother and his wife Alice have died on the same day in 1884. Roosevelt leaves his newborn daughter in the care of his sister and heads alone to the Dakota Badlands. There, he builds a ranch with the help of 2 woodsmen he trekked with back in Maine after his father's death 6 years earlier.
Okay.
He names the place.
See, that's not that bad for me. I lost an old ship, freed up some money for me.
Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin says,
Freed up some money for me there. I lost an old ship. But what I am about to do is I basically just lured these 2 ships, see these 2 Iroquois ships? I basically lured him in close to Sicily, slowly kind of strategically retreated and attacked him a little bit. And I should have moved this guy here sooner. I kind of messed up in that regard because now I can't shoot him effectively or close enough. But what I really wanted to do was like basically spring a trap on him here. And I wanted to almost get rid of my 2 old ships. I don't care if I lose them, really. They're good to just have for situations like this. But I basically lured him in so that my crossbowmen could destroy and sink their ships like this. Into the sea you go. And so he just lost way more value than I did. Like I just lured him into a trap. And I'm doing the same. So see, I'm going to strategically retreat here. Trying to lure that ship in so that my actual like strong crossbowmen here can just rain fire down upon their holes, down upon their ships. Just gotta take my notes. Helps me out. Back to Teddy. Back to the legend that was Teddy Roosevelt.
the darkness in Roosevelt was apparent to everyone around him.
It's a constant flight from sadness to go to the next stage. He's asked Bill Sewell and Will Dow, the 2 guides from his expedition to Maine, to come out to help him build a ranch. And Sewell said that Roosevelt seemed to have nothing to live for.
The ranch is 35 miles north of the town of Medora, North Dakota. He learns to ride a Western style, to herd and rope cattle, and hunt on the banks of the Little Missouri. Historian Leroy G. Dorsey says, the challenge of life in the Dakotas stirred and inspired Roosevelt.
People on the frontier had to contend with wild animals and weather events and Native Americans. So those people had to demonstrate their strength. And that's why for him, the frontier myth was America's story.
Historian Edward T. O'Donnell.
When Roosevelt thought of the West, he thought of what we would call manifest destiny, that the West was where America was going to achieve its initial phase of greatness. If you
I
want to
didn't
sum
fall
up in
for
a
my
single image,
trap
it's that John
necessarily.
Gast
I know.
painting
It's not the
American
right trap.
Progress shows.
So yeah, again, I'm trying to get him to come close enough. He can even come sink my ship. I don't care. Come sink that ship, bro. What I want is him to be close enough so I can rain fire down with these crossbows. And he can take 2 of my old, outdated ships that I don't need that are actually probably taking up too much money. Like, I probably have too much money invested in the maintenance of these old ships. And so it's actually better if he destroys them. But what I can do is take 2 of his valuable newer ships and kind of significantly harm him.
Angel of democracy floating above settlers and miners and ranchers, all heading west And Native Americans are fleeing off the scene because they're no match for what's coming.
Most white Americans of Roosevelt's era believed that the indigenous people held no rights to their land.
This is not a good sign, though, too. This is not a good overall long-term sign. So they're at war. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of, like, fighting happening here between Morocco and the Iroquois. I can't see what's going on, but I think there's a bunch of fighting going on right here, which means he's probably exerting a lot of his energy and resources. And like we saw, Three Swords McGee over here, Three Swords McGee over here, definitely wants to come attack and invade Morocco. And like we've been saying all game, war between these two are inevitable. And the winner of this war is probably going to like be one of the big long-term challengers to like the main victory at the end of the game. And if you see, he's creeping. He's got some military over here, fighting the barbarians over here. He's kind of creeping into like Morocco's territory a little bit. So it's actually kind of making me a little nervous that my boy Morocco is wasting his time and energy fighting this war down here, when really what he should be doing is building up an army and getting ready for the real war to come up here. So yeah, we're about to get into the stage where there's a bunch of fighting going on and diplomacy and whatnot. So if you've been with me this whole time so far, it's been kind of boring, but it's going to start to get really interesting. And I'm definitely not winning right now. I'm actually probably in like 4th or 5th place overall, but I have set myself up strategically to win. So from this point forward, if I kind of do the right moves and the right things fall into place, I'll win this game. But as of right now, I'm probably in like 3rd or 4th place. Some other guys are in some better situations and as of like this moment. But this was big, was getting this island was very big, and now I just need to like fortify it and protect it and keep it and develop it. And long term, this piece on the map is going to be very crucial. It's almost a choke point. So like if you see on the map down here, this is where we are, this like flashing dot here. So having this has pretty much now prevented every one of these nations from coming at me with a navy. And if I can take out, or at least if I can either destroy and conquer Indonesia, or at least get them to the point where they aren't a threat at all, where I just reduce them down to like no military, maybe take a couple cities, destroy their economy, so they're not a threat to me, there's no one militarily capable of like really attacking or invading my homeland. So if I can take out Indonesia, I mean, Siam a little bit, there's potential there, but Siam and Persia are going to be locked in basically a perpetual land war here in North Africa. I don't think Siam's going to be worried about like a navy at all. And if so, we'll deal with it when the time comes. But having this choke point and really fortifying it and having it be like a very strong hold defensively and building up a big strong navy around it will pretty much allow me to attack outward in any direction. But also it's like a choke point where navies won't be able to like really come by. I mean, they can, but I'm going to like at least do some damage to them along the way, or just defeat them along the way. But having this was such a crucial, clutch territorial gain for me going forward. So yeah, I'm probably in like 3rd or 4th place overall right now, but just like something like having this and using it effectively can really, over the course of time, separate you and set you up for like military victory in the long run.
Own right to settle the land and assumed that the Native Americans would either die off or convert to their way of life.
Like a lot of Americans in the late 19th century, Roosevelt is of two minds regarding Native Americans. He sees Native Americans as savages that are in the way of progress, but also paragons of nobility and strength.
Roosevelt is reported to have remarked, "I don't go so far as to think that the only good Indians are dead Indians, but I believe 9 out of 10 are, and I shouldn't like to inquire too closely into the case of the 10th."
What a horrible like voice. Whenever this guy does Roosevelt, do you notice that? Have you noticed that? Am I crazy? He's like almost purposely mocking him and making him sound ridiculous, you know? Man, I thought this was gonna be a good documentary. They're trying to make my boy literally sound bad, and they keep kind of bringing up the bad stuff about him and making him sound like weak and cowardly a little bit. Dude, Teddy Roosevelt was a G. Put some respect on his name. Put some respect on his voice when you try to mimic it. History Channel, bro. Bunch of commie libs over at History Channel. Bunch of degenerate
So
commies.
while he was castigating Native Americans for their savagery and subhuman behavior, almost in the same sentence, he'd write about, well, sometimes they were pushed to it by whites. So you could see him trying to do this sort of
All right, Big Hat McGee, let's do some damage here.
that was going on the
Give me some
frontier on
gold.
both
I'll give you
sides.
some whales.
During the years he lived in the bad,
They were sometimes
Give me your gold and I will give you my whales, Big Hat McGee.
pushed to it. So while he was castigating Native Americans for their savagery and subhuman behavior, almost in the same sentence, he'd write about, well, sometimes they were pushed to it by whites. So you could see him trying to do this
True.
sort of even-handed
But true, though?
of the slaughter that was going on the frontier on both sides.
But true, though?
during the years he lived in the bad,
Are we going to ignore that that was true, though?
Roosevelt spent much of his time alone.
See, they're like, he made this claim that, whites were just responding to the savagery of the natives. It's like, but isn't that true, though? But isn't that a fact, though? Like, you just kind of stated that as if it was some crazy, loopy conspiracy theory. It's like, well, but isn't it, like, literally a fact, though?
You could see, so
Are
while
you-
he was castigating Native Americans for their savagery and subhuman behavior, almost in the same sentence, he'd write about, well, sometimes they were pushed to it by whites. So you could see him trying to do this sort of even-handed account of the slaughter that was going on the frontier on both sides.
Yeah.
During the years
Yes,
he
fact.
lived in
There
the
was.
Roosevelt
There
spent
was
much of his
brutality
time
and
alone.
savagery going on both sides. And when one side attacked, it was usually because the other was doing something bad. I don't think either side was really as insane and crazy or stupid as people like to believe. It was usually just responses. Someone attacks my village gets guns and attacks back. And then that village gets more guns and they attack back. And you just keep attacking back and forth until the strongest man wins. That's basically, you want to summarize history? One tribe attacks one tribe. That tribe gets big and strong and attacks back, and they just keep attacking back until you end up with like the world and all the borders we have today. Eventually you end up with like peace deals and peace treaties along the way, and constant warfare and squabbles along the way over the course of history. And eventually you end up with a bunch of different nations who've made temporary peace deals with each other after fighting, That's kind of how like things are. That's kind of how the way history has worked itself out. That's kind of reality, I'm not sitting here saying it's good. I'm not saying it's like what I want, but that's just the way things are, And people in America exists because we won. It's like we both were pretty mean and brutal to each other back and forth and breaking treaties and oaths and pacts we made with each other and fighting. You attacked my people, I'm going to attack back, then you're going to attack back. And then eventually you end up with just the United States of America because we won, And you can hate that and you can be mad about it, but that's like just reality, So yeah, like the natives messed around and they found out, cometh the king, you best not miss. What up, Coffee Grounds Bear? 07's in the chat for Coffee Grounds Bear.
Solitary hunting
Welcome
trips.
back, welcome in.
Historian
New developments in the game, Coffee Grounds Bear. We got a bunch of wars going on. I am at war with Morocco against these guys, the Iroquois. I'm not really at war. I'm just like helping my bro out by saying that I'm at war with him. Meanwhile, he's probably about to go to war with Japan and probably lose that war, so that's not going to be good for me long term. Persia and Siam are at war with each other down here in Africa. This is going to be a big, long conflict forever. Our big main conflicts here right now are Persia and Siam in North Africa down here. We got Japan and Morocco up here that are probably about to be at war for a long time, for a while, in a big way. You have currently, right here, Morocco and the Iroquois at war, and you also have the Ottomans and the Iroquois at war. So the Iroquois are like on a two-front war right now, and they clearly are about to lose. So we're probably about to start seeing a bunch of their property get invaded and divvied up. The right of conquest, We're about to see isn't it funny as we're talking about it? The Iroquois tribe, the Iroquois here are about to mess around and find out. You have them evil brown-skinned Moroccan colonizers are coming and taking what the Iroquois have. And you also have the evil brown-skinned pagan Muslim Ottoman Empire coming from the east and also about to conquer and manifest destiny their way into conquering all of the Iroquois' land. But we're probably going to see that soon enough. I mean, they're not going to be able to sustain a two-front war from probably the people who are number one right now. The Ottomans seem like they might be like in first place as of right now, the biggest, most powerful. They're coming, and then you have probably like a top 5 competitor, and one of the best economies overall is coming from like the north and the west. So this guy is about to fall. The Eero not so coy. Yeah. The Eero not so coy, says Coffee Grounds. Yeah, the Iroquois are about to fall for sure. It's just a matter of time. So I don't really feel bad, just like wink wink, yeah, I'm at war with you, Morocco. Okay, because I don't really care. I'm not fighting it. But what's really what I'm really dealing with right now is scrambling to as quickly as possible build an army. I'm trying to build a city/military base. It is a city, but I basically view it as like a military base over here, right here, and to get this iron, but also to have like a staging point potentially. Basically, just like a thorn in the neck, a thorn in the side of my real enemy who is plotting against me, who's scheming against me, who's trying to build up an army and attack me first. So I have to attack them first in response. He also has a settler that I think he's just using as a spy right now, moving around my territory. He's moving them around, getting a scope on what's going on, and he's probably going to try to put that city somewhere. When he does, it's on. When he does, I'm viewing that as an active war and going to attack and take that city. And then we're going to attack and try to take this city / destroy as much of his army and disrupt as much of his empire as possible. And again, I keep saying it, I'll say it for the last time, my overall goal is to bring the fight to him and not have the fight occur on my soil, on my land. So as long as I can just keep having positive, attacking on his soil, do as much damage to his army and his city and his people as possible, that's going to help me neutralize the threat of Indonesia. Back
He
to
would go
Teddy.
out alone for days at a time to test himself. He would just take a tea bag and a biscuit and a rifle. He's like, I'll live off the land. I'm going to prove that I can do this.
In his 1885 book, Hunting Trips of a Ranchman, Roosevelt wrote, "Nowhere, not even at sea, does a man feel more lonely than when riding over the far-reaching, seemingly never-ending plains. And after a man has lived a little while on or near them, their very vastness and loneliness and their melancholy monotony have a strong fascination for him." Jared Cohen is the author of Accidental Presidents.
The Badlands was no place for a gentleman from New York. This was a rough, rough place.
Roosevelt wrote, "The Badlands seem to be stranger and wilder than ever, the silvery rays turning the country into a kind of grim fairyland. In the darkness there would be no sound but the rhythmic echo of the hoofbeats of the horses and the steady metallic clank of the steel bridle chains." Tweed Roosevelt is Teddy Roosevelt's great-grandson. He says it took time for Roosevelt to prove himself to the local cowboys.
He was looked upon askance. Here was this Eastern dude who had a penchant to dress up.
So yeah, and this guy totally just fell for my trap. He didn't even sink my guy. I actually wish he would have sunk my ship. Honestly. But this guy fell for my trap. He came in. I am now going to sink him. So I just took out 2 of his more advanced, better equipped. Those ships are designed to really explore, but they actually are like pretty useful fighters against like older ships like this. But yeah, he just fell for my trap. I just took out 2 of his ships, and he only took out 1 of my older ships. So we definitely got the upper hand there. He fell for my trap, my sneaky little trap. What a loser. What a loser. What a fool.
And fancy sort of faux cowboy clothing, the fringe jackets and the like.
He's not just playing cowboy, he actually becomes a cowboy. He participates in the roundup.
So what we can do, what I'm going to do with these old ships, because they take too many turns, they take too much maintenance. I need a newer army. I can't really have this. I kind of explored all I can explore with this guy. What I'm going to do is gift them. So you can gift. See, give a gift. gift a unit. It gives me friend points, and it also gives them like units like to use. So I actually kind of want to make friends with Cape Town, either before or during the war with Indonesia, because that would really mess them up. If I have this guy on my side, I have my own military base over here, and I have an army fighting up here. If you see, he's going to be pretty surrounded by just hostilities. He's going to be surrounded by this guy's armies and boats over here he's going to have to deal with. This isn't going to matter too much. They don't really have like a strong army, but it's just going to be like annoying to them to have me as like not an enemy at least, or not neutral over here. But then I am going to be more of an annoying force over here. Having this city and these military units on this side is going to be more than annoying. It's going to be a pain in his side, a thorn in his side. And when I build up an army and bring it this way, that's going to be like the devastating blow. So I'm kind of distracting him and angering him from all directions. So I do want to get Cape Town on my side, and being able to gift him a unit's going to help. I just need 14 more friend points with to take over, because Polynesia's current their ally. So if I just gift him 250, I get 15 friend points. I really need to do that, but honestly, I don't have enough money right now to really waste on doing that. But when the time comes, I will do my best to make Cape Town my ally, and we will be with Samarkand, Cape Town, Riga, and Milan will be my like allies in the wars to come. And so I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to gift this ship because, again, I don't want this ship. It's honestly just taking up too much of my maintenance. So I am going to strategically give it to Riga, who could potentially use it over here with me in the fight against Surabaya. And that'll gift me some more influence friend points. And see how that takes up. Now I've freed up some of my maintenance by getting rid of those ships. So, yeah. And I'm just going to have to rebuild my navy down here in Ephesus. And continue to get some newer trade ships out of Ephesus. And then I'm going to build an armory, and I'm going to build more advanced fighting ships to, like I was saying, eventually kind of send them down here. Not only I'm going to have to send some to reinforce Tyre a little bit over here, and Sardinia, whenever I can clear these barbarians out and actually put a city here. I'm going to have to like send some military units somehow to clear this out first. And then I'll put this settler here, hopefully, before it gets captured, and which may or may not happen. But really, I need to build up a little bit of a navy so that I can just kind of mess with them here, mess with his cities here on the coast. And it looks like he did successfully take this from Persia. So this was a Persian city. Istakar. So if I can kind of disrupt his trade routes and his troop movement over here, I can basically make this city and this city a sitting duck if I have like a strong enough naval presence here. And that basically makes these two cities a sitting duck if, for instance, the Mongols want to come claim them, they would really not be able to defend. If the Persians want to go somehow all the way around and reclaim that, they wouldn't be able to defend it or reinforce it. And the same thing with Siam, but I think they are friends. So, but if I could make them kind of like sitting ducks over here, they would eventually lose those two cities to conquest. And then I just need to disrupt his trade. If he's not going to be able to trade with me. If these cities are my allies, he's not trading with those city-states. And then if I can like effectively use a navy to destroy his trade ships from getting out, if I can just destroy his trade ships with a navy over here, he literally won't be trading with anyone, and I'll really, really cripple his economy. So it's kind of crucial that I actually rebuild my navy with faster moving ships, more powerful ships, and get Cape Town on my side so that he's pretty much donezo. So that I can it's like a snake, just slowly, curling and coiling around my prey. Just slowly take away their trade, slowly take away their ability to move in water, slowly take away their allies and their neutral cities surrounding their nation, and slowly build up an army that I eventually will unleash through this mountain pass onto their people, onto their cities, To
himself as well.
So that's what's going on. That's the build-up. We're continuing the build-up on this war, thinking of every possible thing, thinking of all the possible strategies I can use. things are looking good as of now, but honestly, he literally probably does have a bigger army than me right now. I can't see it, I don't know it, but these units are kind of more advanced than me, or not more advanced, but they are advanced enough to be annoying. And I don't know how big his army is, and I don't know how much of his army he sent to Africa to fight. He at least sent some of it to go conquer this city. I don't know how much are still there, how much he lost. I don't know what's up. But I do think he has a good industrial capacity to build more units as the fighting kicks off. And I think he does have a sizable military. So I am kind of probably have less of an actual fighting force than he does right now. But give me like 20 turns. Like, let's watch the next 20 turns and watch me start building these musketmen up. And eventually these cannons, when I can finally get these cannons. Watch me build the army that's going to conquer Spain.
He didn't shelter himself.
Right now, I'm setting myself up in every way other than having a big, strong physical army capable of invading this moment. I'm kind of strategically setting everything up so that when I have the military, when I finally have that army, it's on, baby.
Them to admire him.
So my goal is like almost like 15, 20 turns from now, I want to be able to invade. My goal is kind of 20 turns. You see up here, this is the counter. This is the year. But really, see, I'm at turn 274. I kind of want to be able to invade by like 290 to 300. That's kind of when I want to be invading, is like basically like turn 295, turn 300. I should be at war and invading. If he attacks first, then it's whatever. It's all my plans are out the window. But that's if I'm the one attacking first, that's the ideal time. I'll have like secured everything, secured my allies, built up a good enough attacking force, really done all the planning correctly, and then I'll probably launch my invasion sometime in that turn time range.
To take for you to respect and admire me, and then he did that.
Just as he had worked hard to overcome his physical frailty as a boy, Roosevelt brings his philosophy of a strenuous life to the frontier.
Each rancher would send a string of horses and a couple of men, and they would all spend a month or 6 weeks together, moving slowly through the territory, rounding up all the strays. And Roosevelt loved it. I mean, he absolutely loved it. And it was very difficult, somewhat dangerous work. In one of the stampedes, his horse threw him, broke the point of his shoulder, which is a very painful thing, and he couldn't leave the roundup. So he just dealt with it. He just lived with this excruciating pain.
Even in this unlikely setting, a fish out of water, he becomes a leader.
TR was sort of assigned informal deputy sheriff. He was asked to do various
What's up,
duties,
Twitch? We got 3
mostly
people
going
on
and arresting
Twitch. What's
someone
going on?
and
Welcome
bringing
in.
them back.
He's
Hope
no
you're doing
longer
well.
that
Hope you're
Eastern
enjoying the
dude.
game.
He's this hybrid
Hope you're
American.
enjoying this Teddy
At that time
documentary.
in America, there was such a gap between the Western people in the East, between the country and the city, between the rich and the poor, and he's beginning to bridge those gaps by all of his experiences.
He also has an intellectual transformation. He starts writing about winning the West, and he becomes enchanted by the idea of conservation.
It's an idea that will remain with him throughout his life.
The natural world has touched a deep chord within him, and he says that the romance of his life has begun. He changes physically. He gains 30 pounds, and it's all bone and muscle and grit. And his voice, which had been a falsetto voice, is now strong enough to drive oxen. So it's a huge change in his physical demeanor. There's also a change in his emotional demeanor. Somehow being out there began to heal him. He began to look forward to the future again.
The winter of 1887 is known as the Great Die-Up. Heavy snow and freezing temperatures kill hundreds of thousands of cattle across the West. Roosevelt loses 60% of his life.
Do I name it Athens or do I name it Mars Hill?
He decides then to return to New York, but he remains
In the chat, I keep naming all my cities like the biblical New Testament cities, and I kind of want to name it Mars Hill, not Athens. Let me know in the chat. I might make the next city I make Mars Hill.
for his entire life for his experiences at Elkhorn Ranch. He later writes, "I owe more than I can ever express to the West."
And then he comes back to the east. He rekindles his relationship with Edith Kermit Garrow.
Roosevelt had known Edith Caro since childhood, says historian Stacey A. Cordery.
Edith and Theodore were sweethearts when they were quite young. Edith had been sort of a member of the Roosevelt family. The two bonded over books and a love of nature.
And the family thought that they might get married, but TR went up to college and then he met Alice and he married Alice, but Edith hung in there. They were a very good fit.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony. Finding someone
Where are you
who
going?
gets you is hard, right? You're not all compatible. Who gets you?
Built to last.
Life in politics. Edith Caro.
So where are you going? This guy's going somewhere too. He might be trying to get here first. This is full of barbarians though. I have to clear this out because the second I land, they're just going to take this guy captive. So I have to send this guy to come either just defend him long enough for me to make the city, or to actually like defeat some of the barbarians, make some space, some room, and provide some cover so that I can actually make the city. But this guy coming in hot somewhere. I don't like this. He's coming in this direction somewhere. He's either trying to do the same thing on this island or he's moving this way, and I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I don't like Japan being anywhere on this side of Sicily. Like I was saying, I don't want him being anywhere on this side of Sicily in the Mediterranean Ocean. In the Mediterranean Ocean over here. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Especially because he's about to be at war with my best friend, and I'm probably going to have to join him. I'm probably going to have to join my best friend Morocco whenever he gets invaded by Japan, just to kind of keep him as my best friend. And not do any fighting, again, like I'm doing. Like, really not do any, like, aggressive fighting, but just kind of, if I see some units along the way, either defend myself or maybe, like, spring a little trap like I did with those Iroquois ships over here. But yeah, like over here, I'm not doing any fighting over here if I don't absolutely need to or have to. Like, I'm not sending any units. But if his ships and stuff come close, or if he has a city by my land, I'm definitely going to have to, like, take it. I can't have that. He's proved his military might. He proved his military might early on. Japan did. By putting this city here and then defending it, and then not only defending it, but winning a war against Arabia and destroying that city that he had right here. Just without any reinforcements from the other side of the map. It was pretty gutsy move that paid off for him. So I don't want anything to do with him, with Japan, with Three Swords McGee, Japan, unless it's absolutely necessary. So I don't like that. I don't like this one bit that he's here. I don't like it. Get him out of here. I don't like it one bit. Get him out of here. Changed my mind with moving these guys. I need to keep these guys here. That's what I need to do. This guy needs to come here. Stay there. Stay there. I don't like it one bit. Get out of here, Japan. What do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing?
On their return to the United
Haha, yes,
States,
Mars Hill or Areopagus.
Areopagus call to a life in politics. New York
Areopagus. Areopagus, right?
For mayor of New York City. The party had become fractured, and its leaders
Areopagus.
find a candidate who can unify.
Yeah, see, I don't like this one bit. He's trying to put this city here. Just beat me in a race. He just beat me in a race to Sardinia. I really hope a barbarian takes him. That would be hilarious. Because, see, I paused. If you noticed, he might have just beat me in the race because I paused. Because there's too many barbarians. I can't see them, but I know they're there, right there. Yep, see, there we go. Bam. Dumb move. Dumb move, Japan. I thought you were so smart. I was thinking Three Swords McGee over there in Japan was so smart. But yeah, he went a little too soon putting his guy on land. And like you see, the barbarians came and took him hostage. Took him captive. So that's why I paused here. That's strategically why I moved this guy here, and he's been sitting here for a couple turns. And why I'm moving this unit this way, because I need this unit to come and either play defense or literally kill these guys before I can put this guy on land. Otherwise, that happens. Otherwise, you get taken hostage like that. So what can happen is I'm going to clear these barbarians out a little bit, and then if I retake this hostage, I don't get a settler, but if it's an opponent's settler that's hostage, I get a free worker out of it, which is actually pretty dope, which is actually pretty perfect. So I didn't, 5 minutes ago, I did not like that Japan was over here. Now it's like, thank you for being so stupid. This might really turn out in my favor, so thank you for being so stupid, Japan.
Roosevelt accepts the nomination, knowing he faces long odds.
I don't like it. Actually, I kind of like it. Keep doing
New
that.
York politics and earn him the goodwill
At
of
first,
the
I don't like it,
Republican
but then I end up
Party
liking it, so keep doing it now.
The press dubs him the cowboy candidate. He finishes third, behind the Democrat Adam Hewitt and the United Labor Party candidate Henry George. Roosevelt will need to look elsewhere for his next role.
When they first got married, he's offered a rather low-level job to be on the Civil Service Commission, and so he and Edith moved to Washington.
He's an outsized personality for the job, but it stokes the flame of reform that
Yeah,
his
this is
father
where Teddy
had seeded with him.
rises. This is where Teddy starts to
His time on the
rise
Civil Service
and
Commission in
crush.
Washington shapes Roosevelt's values, says Edward Kahn, professor of history at Norwich University.
For Roosevelt, civil service reform guided his life to the basic idea that positions in government should not be based on how much money you paid for your position. They should be based on your merit.
So again, this guy doesn't want to make like mutually beneficial trades with me. He's new. He's new to me. He's not letting me through his territory. Not making mutually beneficial trades, but now he wants to be friends. And the reason why is because the Ottomans are coming. The reason why is because he knows it's a matter of time before these Ottomans get feisty and rowdy and they come a-calling. They're coming down for sure. He's scared. He wants allies. He's desperate for help and for allies, and I'm not giving it to you, bro. I'm an Ottoman neutral guy right now. I'm not starting any crap with them. They're the big dogs in town, you know? If I don't need to, I'm not starting any crap with the Ottomans as of right now. But my guess is they're going to be my late round rival. So either Japan or Morocco fights a war and wins. They're probably going to be one of the bigger late game opponents, whoever wins this war. And we'll see. It actually kind of looks like the Iroquois are kind of defending themselves pretty well. Like the fact that they're actually not being overrun right now, and the fact that it looks like they're maybe on the offensive over here in Hanoi, and they haven't been overrun yet here by the Iroquois, even though this might be gone soon. We'll kind of see what's going up here. But if the Iroquois can really do some defense and really drain the resources of the Ottomans, that would really help me long term. But I do think the Ottomans are going to be the long-term enemy. Like Istanbul might need to be like the last place that I'm invading and conquering at the end of this game. So yeah, but as of right now, bro, you're on your own, Korea. You weren't even giving me favorable trades to make me even kind of consider being your ally. Sorry, bro, you're on your own. Good luck. Good luck in the wars to come.
Fundamental fairness involved here. He said he wanted the farmer's
I wish you
son
good
and
fortune in the
mechanic's
wars to
son
come,
have
bro.
the same chance as a son of privilege, and he fought to establish that civil service and make it rooted in our understanding of how government should work. It was in Washington that Roosevelt met William Howard Taft, and the two of them became really good friends. It was a really pleasant time. He's there for 6 years, and they have a big family by then. Alice, of course, is there, and then they have Theodore, Kermit, Ethel, and they have Archie. Washington is one of the happier experiences of Edith's life.
Edith is happy in Washington, but Theodore longs for a bigger challenge. His role in the Civil Service Commission is largely bureaucratic and hardly suits his ambition and boundless energy. When he's offered the position of New York Police Commissioner in 1895, he sees it as an opportunity to revive his stagnant political career. But by the time the Roosevelts return, he finds the city has changed.
New York City was a growing city, bursting at the seams. Huge infrastructure projects.
See, now, I actually kind of, even though Penis Hat McGee over here, even old Penis Hat, shrunken raisin face or whatever, Vegeta, Dragon Ball Z costume wearing guy over here is coming to me for friendship. He's done some good things for me. He's done some good stuff for me so far, and I kind of want to do this and be his friend, because I also know him and Indonesia are friends, and so when me and Indonesia go to war, it'll kind of put him in a position to pick between us, and I hope he picks me. I hope he chooses me, you know? I hope he asks me out to homecoming. I hope he asks me out to homecoming. Because if I can that would be crazy. If I start going to war and they start getting a little on the weak side and Siam actually does decide to come up, they could conquer this city. They could even maybe send some navies and armies over to conquer some of these coastal cities that I'm going to be leaving alone for a while. So, yeah, man, being friends with Siam actually is beneficial to me. As of right now. And if Genghis Khan wants to be friends, that would kind of be beneficial to me, because if he can send some armies up also and maybe capture this city or way over here in this city, that would be helpful to me. Genghis Khan's just that wild card this game. The Mongols are the wild card. Who would have guessed?
Dollars being spent.
It had more than doubled in population. It was the industrial center of the country, 12,000 factories, 500,000 factory workers. It had Wall Street, it had 100 live theater companies. New York was the Las Vegas of the 1890s. Men came to New York to have a good time. They drank too much, they drank all night. There were dance clubs, there were maybe 40,000 prostitutes. There was gambling, there were casinos. It was an unbelievably bustling, dynamic, crowded place.
What
Disgusting.
New York was going through and the pressures on New York is what was happening.
And we are about to convert the Catholics. I'm sorry, Catholics. I love you. Big Catholic respecter. Big Catholic respecter here. I love you guys. You know you're my brothers. You know you're my cousins in Christ, my brothers in Christ. But Catholic Milan has got to become Christian. It's got to become actually Christian. Believers and followers of Christ, the Lord. So yeah, Milan converted. I get 2 more turns, 2 more conversions out of this great prophet. I'm going to bring them here and get these Jews out of Tangier. Get these Jews out of Tangier and Marrakesh and make this Christian and really solidify Morocco as a Christian nation. Even though they came, man, after all that hard work I did to convert the people of Fez away from the false religion, they came back. They just keep coming back. But yeah, if I can come over here and get Tangier and Marrakesh, that'll be crucial to have like their capital and their main big cities. Man, that stinks that they got Fez. I knew I should have came and got Casablanca. These Jews, man. These Iroquois Jews are really up to no good in this game. In this fictional game, the Jews are up to no good. Back to Teddy.
Throughout the United States, the rapid urbanization, vast numbers of immigrants coming, industrialization, America becoming an economic power.
Titans of industry like the Astors, Carnegies, the Morgans, the Vanderbilts, and the Roosevelts brought tremendous wealth to New York. At the same time, an influx of immigrants found an expensive city where they could, at best, hope to scrape by. Gilded Age New York had much in common with present-day Las Vegas. It was a haven for parties, underground gambling, opium dens, and prostitution. Historian Khalil Gibran Muhammad.
The great wealth of the robber barons.
All right, Three Swords McGee, I'm not joining you in a war against my friend. How dare you? How dare you, sir? You did not come with 9 swords next time. I told you to come with 9 swords and we'd talk.
Poverty of those at the bottom of this economy was such a vivid display of inequality.
Once again, Roosevelt thinks he can be part of the solution. It's what his father would have wanted.
So in 1895, Roosevelt accepts an appointment as commissioner of the New York City Police Department. Remember, Roosevelt's image of public service is that one that's instilled in him by his father, that public service is noble, and you only go into public service as a policeman or as a mayor to do good.
That's not a good sign. That's not a great sign. Indonesia and the Persians made peace. Not a great sign. Usually when he's making peace, that means he's refocusing his army, which is not great for me. Not great for me. It's not great that he has musket men. Those are like an advanced unit as of this time period. I got to step up, boys. I got to really step up. He's got a big army, and he's going to be refocusing it in my direction. I was hoping that war would last a little longer with him, so he would kind of focus a little. He would over-focus on Africa. But this probably means he's pulling back some of his forces and refocusing his attempts up here on me. So, time's a ticking, boys. War is on the horizon.
The community better. And here is, an institution that is rotten.
On the horizon.
It's a challenge. He wants to take it on. And it's the right time and the right moment for his kind of leadership.
In New York City in the 1890s, the police department has a level of corruption that is staggering.
Yeah, this is sick, dude. This is like the sickest story of Teddy. One of the sickest stories of Teddy Roosevelt. He becomes the police commissioner. I forget exactly his title. It might be police commissioner. And I don't know if they'll cover it in its entirety. They really covers it well in this audiobook I listened to. But he almost like didn't really want it. He just kind of felt like he needed to do it because the police department was so corrupt and so ineffective. Like it just either wasn't doing anything or what it was doing was basically just being security guards for like the mob bosses and all the corrupt people in town. And he came in and just like cleaned house and made like an actual police force of like good guys who are like physically fit and capable, and they're actually starting to like enforce the law and actually starting to bust the bad guys. And he just turns it all around. He just totally goes from like New York City police was like a laughing stock to all of a sudden New York City police is like the number one police force in the world. The crime in New York City went from like rampant and widespread and everywhere to like non-existent. And then the problem was all the politicians got mad at him. All the higher ups above him got mad because he was doing too good of a job, because the police were doing too good. There was not enough crime. Like not enough of those like crime bosses were like putting money in the pockets of the politicians anymore, because they were like, you're shutting our business down. We either don't have the money or I'm not going to support you. If you're shutting my rackets down, my gambling and my prostitution rackets down, I can't give money to the politicians. So all the politicians that were corrupt above him were like, nah, we got to get rid of him. We got to get him out. He's doing too good of a job. And even the people in the police department didn't like him, because those higher ups that were just kind of like, the higher ups who like had big fancy titles and good salaries and stuff, just kind of sitting around doing nothing or taking bribes. All of a sudden now they're either fired or they're like forced to like actually do work. They're forced to actually do work. They're forced to actually be good guys. They're forced to like actually be physically fit. They're forced to like actually not be corrupt, or they're forced out, So all the people in the police department too started hating him, because they're like, we just want to sit around and do nothing and collect a paycheck. Or they're like, we just want to sit around and collect bribes, And Teddy's like, no, we're actually going to be good guys doing good things, So he came in and fixed everything up, and as a result made enemies everywhere. And they were like, get this guy out of here. Get these guys out of here. Get this guy out of here. He's too good at his job. He's too good of a man, and he's too good at his job. We got to get him out of here. And that's kind of the story. That's like this repeat story of his life, is people would bring him in being like, oh, yeah, we'll put him in this position. It'll be okay. And Teddy's like, I'm going to crush. Teddy's like, I'm going to make this the best police force in the world. And he does it. And everyone's like, oh, no, we didn't want you to do that. Now you got to leave because you're stepping on everyone's toes. We got to get you out. And then they put him in like a position in the Navy, and he does the same thing. They're like, ooh, you're doing too good of a job, Teddy. We got to get you out. And they put him at vice president because they're like, maybe the vice president is a perfect place for him to just not be effective. Because at that time, the vice president was really almost just like a holding place for politicians, and it didn't elevate you. Like if you were vice president at that time, you didn't do anything. It just kind of put you somewhere where there was nothing you could really do and be effective. But it also didn't because of that, people weren't like, oh, well, the vice president's going to become the next president. It was viewed as like, no, you're just kind of sitting there doing nothing. And then when you're done, it's not like that helped you gain anything in politics. It kind of like almost made it be like, people's perceptions were like, oh, you sat there and did nothing. So they put him at vice president to basically like get rid of him, to basically like shut him up and put him somewhere where he couldn't step on anyone's toes. And then McKinley gets shot and he becomes president and everyone's like, oh no, what did we do? Oh no. What did we do? And the first thing he does is he goes into the presidency and just starts cleaning house and stepping on everyone's toes, you know? So his whole life is just this story of just like, oh, let's put him in, let's give him this job. That'll be fine. And then he like crushes so hard that people are like, dude, we got to get him out of here. And it just kept happening and kept happening. So I'm going to play this story, try to not interrupt it unless war breaks out or something big breaks out. But yeah, the story of him in the police department's awesome.
Take it on.
One that's all that money ended up in New York City one way or the other.
New York is what was
Sorry, we're going to repeat this, and I'm going to stop interrupting it.
The rapid
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt in the New York Police Department's awesome. I hope this podcast really does it justice.
An economic power.
Titans of industry like the Astors, Carnegies, the Morgans, the Vanderbilts, and the Roosevelts brought tremendous wealth to New York. At the same time, an influx of immigrants found an expensive city where they could, at best, hope to scrape by. Gilded Age New York had much in common with present-day Las Vegas. It was a haven for parties, underground gambling, opium dens, and prostitution. Historian Khalil Gibran Muhammad.
The great wealth of the robber barons and the railroads and the fossil fuel industry and of John Rockefeller and Standard Oil, all that money ended up in New York City one way or the other. And the abject poverty of those at the bottom of this economy was such a vivid display of inequality.
Once again, Roosevelt thinks he can be part of the solution. It's what his father would have wanted.
So in 1895, Roosevelt accepts an appointment as commissioner of the New York City Police Department. Remember, Roosevelt's image of public service is that one that's instilled in him by his father, that public service is noble, and you only go into public service as a policeman or as a mayor to do good, to make the community better. And here's, an institution that is rotten to the core.
It's a challenge. He wants to take it on. And it's the right time and the right moment for his kind of leadership.
In New York City in the 1890s, the police department has a level of corruption that is staggering.
In 1895, the report of the Lexow Commission comes out, and it is full of lurid details about kidnapping schemes where people are jailed with no cause until they sell their store and give the money to the police. Witnesses are brought in front of the investigating committee, beaten half to death, one of them with their eye hanging out their socket.
The patrolman on the beat took a bribe to let the push carts stay in place more than 15 minutes. He took a bribe to let the saloon owners stay open after 1 a.m. Brothels were unbelievably lucrative. It was $50 a month. One district on the Lower East Side had 50 brothels. $2,500 back then was $75,000 in modern. Times 12 months, you're looking at $1 million. And this was all shared among the captains, the inspectors, and the local politicians.
And the source of this corruption starts at the top.
When Theodore Roosevelt steps into the police commission, Thomas Burns is the utterly corrupt chief of police, the tip of the pyramid of this giant organized crime syndicate.
So Burns is almost untouchable. He's powerful, he's connected to Tammany Hall, and yet Roosevelt takes him on and says, this guy has got to go.
Roosevelt becomes known as someone who is not afraid to go after any enemy.
It was an early indicator of a man who was willing to take on power and influence by using a kind of muscular position of public authority for the purposes of putting down the kind of illicit corruption of which the police department was central to.
But it's one thing for TR to believe that he can take on the boxing champion at Harvard. It's quite another to take on the most dangerous, powerful man in New York.
Burns is quite ruthless in dealing with his adversaries in terms of doing them in, creating scandal around them, or physically harming them. And so Roosevelt has all of these things to fear. And so it's very much like the bully he confronts in the bar out west. He had learned that even if he, deep down inside, was afraid of someone, that if he acted like he wasn't afraid and sort of willed himself not to be afraid, that he wouldn't be afraid, and to stand up to the bully, to stand up to the corrupt person, to stand up to the evildoer, and triumph.
So Roosevelt threatened to prosecute Burns over corruption and taking bribes from some of the wealthiest people in New York City. Roosevelt wanted to achieve the impossible here. He wanted to clean up the dirtiest, loudest, roughest city in the United States. And Burns decided to resign.
Having excised the root, Roosevelt is ready to cut out the rest of the rot.
Once he had changed the top leadership, then he knew he had to change the entire culture, because it really was a way of life in the police department. And that meant understanding the policeman on the beat at night in New York. So what he decides is that he's got to have his own first-hand information.
Roosevelt seeks out his friend Jacob Riis, a photojournalist who has recently become famous for writing an expose called How the Other Half Lives, that laid bare the grim conditions of tenement life.
Roosevelt knows that Riis got a lot of his material by prowling the city after midnight.
Jacob Riis knew the back streets and tenements of New York City better than anybody else. And he matched that with a new technology of flash photography. So he could go into the darkest of the stale beer dives. He could go into the underground flop houses. He could go into the basement tenements and catch a literal snapshot of how the other half lives.
So he does these famous midnight rambles, where he and Riis go out between midnight and 5 a.m. He'll put a floppy hat on his head, he'll have a long coat on, he'll walk unbeknownst among the people, so then he can see what's actually happening on the street.
Roosevelt would wander the streets looking for cops, sleeping or drinking on the job. When he found one, he would goad the man nearly to violence before gleefully introducing himself, then demanding the man appear at police headquarters early the next morning.
They find policemen that are sleeping
What a
in their
gangster,
posts.
dude.
They find policemen that are drinking in bars,
What a
carousing with
gangster.
prostitutes, and are just outraged.
He undercover bossed them.
Policemen are fired, people are reassigned, and there's immediately a sense that Roosevelt is cleaning up the town, like that kind of Western sheriff that he so admired.
All right, so he's coming to me with peace deals. Yeah. Based righteous reformation. Laugh out loud. Yeah, he undercover bossed them for sure. Like a gangster, he undercover bossed his own police department. Caught them all drinking and slacking on the job. Yeah. So he's coming to me. He wants peace. He's done with the war. And he's willing to give me some iron. And I'll just take it. I'm fine. Usually I want more in return. But I'm so desperate for iron right now. I'll take it. And we're going to make some embassies with each other. And we're going to be done with that war. Sign peace deal. Teddy Gangster
Guys, the
Roosevelt.
white hats are in town, and there's going to be a new way of doing business.
This is a mixture of the enforcement part of being police commissioner and playing the theatrics, but the theatrics were not superficial. He has this tremendous sense of right and wrong.
Here's this 5'8" guy standing up to these massive Irish cops, and the public loved him.
Cartoons in the daily papers begin to depict Roosevelt carrying a giant paddle inscribed with the word reformer. It's an early
Reform,
display of an
righteous
attitude
reformation.
he would later make famous as president. With an approach to foreign policy he described as speak softly and carry a big stick.
All of a sudden, there are cartoons in papers all across the country showing policemen cowering at the image of these big teeth and the mustache and the whiskers. And again, he becomes a romantic figure fighting corruption in New York, just as he had become in the Badlands, being a cowboy. So he's becoming, as one of the newspaper reporters said at the time, the most interesting man in America.
This is the moment where TR reaches a new milestone in his political savvy, because he realizes that the press finds him fascinating.
Roosevelt also decides that for the department to regain respectability, it needs to be run more professionally.
He sees that the police department itself needs to be modernized. He created the first police academy where officers were trained. He standardized the uniforms and the gun training and the guns they could have.
He brings typewriters in. He brings in a fingerprint crew, first women secretaries in the police department.
Part of what TR enjoys about being the police commissioner is he gets to play the role of enforcer. He played the role of legislator, played the role of cowboy. Now he had an opportunity to go out and enforce reform. Any law that's written on the book he believes needs to be enforced.
But his zeal for enforcement leads him to misread his constituents. And this proves to be a major misstep.
At the time in New York City, there's something called the Sunday Excise Law. You could not sell liquor. You could not have your saloon open on a Sunday.
The problem with the Sunday closing law was that it was not being enforced altogether. They weren't all being closed down.
Sounds like some time. Sounds like a
open,
time to be
you could bribe
enforced.
The police and the politician if you couldn't afford.
Sounds like we got a guy to finally enforce it. Sounds like somebody is about to enforce that good law.
the bribe, you were forced to be closed.
Can we just get one day a week where people aren't degenerate? Can we have one day a week where people just like aren't evil scumbags, degenerate, gross scumbags? One day? That sounds like a reasonable law. One day where like society doesn't have to deal with degenerate, gross scumbags being horrible people out in public. One day a week? Good thing we got Teddy in there, because it sounds like that law is about to be enforced.
If you tried to open, you'd be arrested. So he saw that this was really the taproot of corruption.
So Roosevelt decides that he will actually enforce the law. And the backlash is unbelievable. People are absolutely furious. Back then,
Good.
New Yorkers worked 6 days a week.
Let
The
them
one
be
day
furious.
off they had was Sunday.
So they would go to their
Let them
local
be
tavern,
furious.
which was kind of a community center, and they would eat and relax a little and spend time with their families and their friends. It was actually an important social institution in the city of New York.
Here, Roosevelt's ideals get the better of his political judgment.
Roosevelt, always a bit moralistic, always taking the high ground, always a bit impetuous, always doing what's right, and darn the consequences. And he got one of his close friends, Henry Cabot Lodge, saying, Roosevelt, you have to be a little careful about the fights you pick. You don't want to end your career. I don't think he quite understood the role that saloons played in the lives and cultures of working class immigrants.
Their reaction is terrible. He goes from populist hero to pariah.
There were death threats. A bomb was sent to headquarters on Mulberry Street.
But Roosevelt is not discouraged, and he doesn't hide in his headquarters. Instead, he meets the protesters in the streets. And when they
what a
hurl
gangster,
insults,
dude.
TR joins in, making fun of himself too. He shows that he is capable of laughing at himself.
What a G, dude.
So it's a great capacity where self-deprecating humor can win you over and make people realize he's
What
doing
a
something we
gangster.
don't like. Maybe he's doing it for his reasons, but he's okay.
But still,
He's a real one,
12
man.
and 15,000 saloons in New York were shut on Sundays. And in the next city elections, the Republicans go down and they lose hard. They blame one person for that, and that's Theodore Roosevelt.
This was a failure. He had failed. He recognized
He failed
he
by
had
succeeding.
failed
That's
because
so
he had
nuts.
not gotten the people behind him.
His career in New York City is
He quote unquote failed because he succeeded. Because he did a good job. Because he made people's lives better. Because he made the city a better place to live in. That's so crazy. You'll fail politically if you do a good job. You'll fail politically if you're like a good man who cares. That's the lesson there, you know?
absolutely finished.
But he does not want his career in politics to be finished as well. Roosevelt needs a new platform.
He needs to find a graceful way out, so he goes to campaign for McKinley. is running for president in the hopes perhaps he can be given a job in the new administration.
McKinley was a little suspicious because he viewed TR as a bull in the china shop, as they say, a man who broke a lot of glasses.
TR always longed for more. He was endlessly ambitious.
And he is a natural on the campaign trail.
They jammed the aisles to come to hear him speak. This was where his compulsion to be the center of attention really works for him, because there's a magnetic field that people come and want to be in his presence. Alice had always said that he wanted to be the baby at the baptism, the bride at the wedding, and the corpse at the funeral. He so loved being the center of attention. McKinley wins the election, and he finally, under pressure, gives him the job of Assistant Secretary of the Navy. And it's exactly what TR wants.
Roosevelt is a scholar of military history and a person who believes that America needs to project its strength abroad. And he argues essentially that all the great powers in history have always been strengthened by a powerful naval force.
Once again, he finds an organization in need of an overhaul, and Roosevelt is more than willing to take the helm.
TR looked at the American Navy and was aghast to see how far down. I think we were like the 9th largest Navy in the world after somewhere like Peru or Ecuador. So he did everything he could to build it up, particularly in battleships.
America had a long-standing notion of isolationism, of staying out of world affairs. But Roosevelt thought that we had to be isolationist back in the 1790s. But now in the 1890s, we are the strongest economic power in the world.
This isn't war yet, but he's already starting to bully my friends. He's going to my friends and saying, hey, I have a bigger military than you, give me money. And he wants me to say, I won't let this create a divide between us. I'm going to let you bully my friends. Yeah, no, you're going to pay for this. You will pay for this. And again, 10 more turns, and I think this war is about to break out. 10, maybe 15 turns.
We can't be.
We're still setting it up. We're still strategizing and strategically setting it up.
Roosevelt's hawkish
The war's
views
coming.
emerge from his feeling that his generation needs to prove itself, and that the battlefield is an essential test. He once said, I should welcome almost any war, for I think this country needs one. And he could readily see the potential for war with Spain. As Assistant Secretary of the Navy, he urges his commander to focus U.S. defenses on Cuba. In a letter to the Secretary of the Navy, John Long, TR writes, if we have war with Spain, there will be immediate need for every gunboat and cruiser that we can possibly get together to blockade Cuba. When the war comes, it should come finally on our initiative, and after we had had time to prepare. If we drift into it, if we do not prepare in advance, we may have to encounter one or two bitter humiliations. And we shall certainly be forced to spend the first 3 of our most important weeks not in striking, but in making those preparations to strike, which we should have made long before. And his prediction of war will soon come to pass.
The game-changing event is the Spanish-American War.
Spain is one of the oldest European powers to have possessions in the New World. Cuba is by far the most important possession Spain has in the Caribbean.
Roosevelt believed that this was an oppressed people that we needed to go help, but also this was an opportunity to pick a fight with a European power.
And Roosevelt was always looking to pick a fight.
That's next time on Making Teddy. Making Teddy is a podcast from the History Channel, produced by Best Guest
Yeah, I know.
For the History Channel,
We know.
Jesse Katz, Eli Lara.
Episode 3, The Rough Rider. Teddy Goes to War, in other
The
words.
History Channel original podcast.
Teddy Goes to War.
The game-changing event is the Spanish-American War.
Roosevelt believed that this was an oppressed people that we needed to go help, but also this was an opportunity to pick a fight with a European power.
And Roosevelt was always looking to...
So yeah, we're going to denounce him. We are going to publicly denounce for the world. And hopefully next turn we'll see who kind of wants to still be allies with them or who agrees with me. that they're the bad guys, that Indonesia's the bad guys. And if people come and say, like, good job, I'm glad you denounced them, those are people I know I might be able to, like, have join me in the war. And the people that come and say, like, how dare you, I'm friends with them, those are the people, like, I gotta keep my eye on.
From the
I gotta keep my
History
eye
Channel,
on you.
this is Making
Friends of my
Teddy.
friends are still, the friends of my
I'm your
enemies
host, Andre
are my
DeShields.
enemies. You know?
Finding your perfect home was hard, but thanks to Burrow, furnishing it has never been easier. Burrow's easy-to-assemble modular sofas and sectionals are made from premium, durable materials, including stain and scratch-resistant fabrics. So they're not just comfortable and stylish, they're built to last. Plus, every single Burrow order ships free right to your door. Right now, get 15% off your first order at burrow.com/ACAST. That's 15% off at burrow.com/ACAST.
Roosevelt has watched tensions with Spain build. Now,
Yeah, Morocco
as
did win
Assistant
this war against the
Secretary of
Iroquois.
Navy,
They did take these two from the Iroquois. Morocco, man. My boy Morocco. Look at my boy Morocco winning that war. We'll see if he tries to take this. It's going to exert a lot of resources getting this, crossing the ocean to attack, especially because it just is strategically going to be good for him to defend against an attack this way from the water in this city. So unless he comes over here and like lands a force here and attacks this way, I actually hope my boy doesn't stupidly try to just send men into a meat grinder over here. Because what he actually needs to do is start turning his attention here to this guy putting another city here and him having a big army, a big hostile army up here. I hope my boy starts realizing the real threat to him, which is Japan, instead of just wasting units and time and energy trying to get this, which he doesn't need. But that's good he did get these. Good job. Good. Look at my boy.
thinks that
Look
the
at my boy
U.S.
winning
needs
that
to
war.
fortify defenses around Cuba to prepare for an eventual conflict. Historian H.W. Brands explains.
Spain is one of the oldest European powers to have possessions in the New World. Cuba is by far the most important possession Spain has in the Caribbean.
And Roosevelt is in favor of war. By 1898, conditions for those living in Cuba are appalling. Clay Risen, author of The Crowded Hour, says conflict in Cuba has been brewing for a long time.
There was a rebellion for independence that had gone on for over a decade and was incredibly brutal.
Stories of concentration camps, torture, and wide starvation, some quite exaggerated, make it back to the U.S. via the press, according to military historian Colonel Doug Dowds.
Newspapers report wildly on the conditions down in Cuba. This is an era of yellow journalism, and they would compete for readership with exaggerated headlines.
Publishers like Hearst and Pulitzer push for Cuban independence, at times printing inflammatory stories that prove to be false. The coverage helps propel the U.S. into war with Spain, and it sells a lot of newspapers. With his romantic view of war, T.R. is eager to prove his own mettle. But those around him with actual battle experience are more cautious. Leroy G. Dorsey is professor of history at Texas A&M University.
McKinley didn't want war. McKinley had been a major in the Civil War. He had seen mayhem.
Jared Cohen, author of Accidental Presidents.
I'll name this one Mars Hill.
McKinley and TR's
I want to name this
Secretary of the
Patmos.
Navy, John
Even though
Long,
it's not
urged
Patmos,
restraint, but you have
I
TR
wanna name
going
this
rogue and
Patmos.
agitating towards war.
And if Long does not share his view, Roosevelt at least has the advantage of an absentee boss, says historian Clay Jenkinson.
He believed that America needs a war to kind of tone us up and to restore our masculine values and to take the effeminacy, as he called it, out of our character. Fortunately for Roosevelt, his chief, John Long, was kind of lazy, took long periods away.
Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin says that Roosevelt employs a particular strategy to keep Long out of the picture.
TR could do what he wanted while Long was away. And this wonderful stream of letters that he writes to Long saying, I know you were thinking of coming back, but it's really, really hot here in Washington. Just stay where you are. Everything's fine here.
What we see is Theodore Roosevelt giving speeches where he talks about the United States should go to war. He engages with senators and congressmen, and he's putting the idea that we should go to war.
Roosevelt's criticism is blunt. Rice University historian Douglas Brinkley.
He even says, my boss, William McKinley, has the spine of a chocolate eclair.
Eventually, public pressure becomes too strong.
What a
McKinley
diss.
decides he has to take some kind of
The
action.
spine of a chocolatey
McKinley tried to
eclair.
force Spain to the negotiating table, so he sends a new battleship, the USS Maine, to Cuba. It was the best the United
Let's get a
States had.
save in real quick. Make
It
sure I
will
don't lose
show
this
up
game
in
somehow.
Havana Harbor in January, and it's a very tense situation when it first shows up. And then tensions start to ease. And this will be the case all the way until the 15th of February. Captain Charles Sigsbee is sitting there on the Maine. It's nighttime, it's a hot and sultry evening. He is writing the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Theodore Roosevelt. He sets down his pen about 9:15 to hear the last notes of taps echo off the corners of the harbor.
On the night of February 15th, an explosion tears through the ship's hull.
Within a few minutes, the Maine will settle into the mud of Havana Harbor. The United States will suffer over 260 casualties that evening.
It was, at the time, the worst naval disaster in American history. It sent shockwaves through the country. People assumed that the Spanish had blown up the Maine.
An initial report by the colonial government of Cuba suggests that the explosion originated within the ship. But stateside, newspapers publish rumors of a Spanish plot to sink the Maine. When a U.S. naval investigation later determines that the explosion came from a mine in the harbor, newspapers seize upon it and call for war. It's the opportunity Roosevelt has been waiting for.
Roosevelt immediately jumped on that narrative, whether it was true or not. The groundswell of Roosevelt and others pushing for war
Look at all
finally
these
became
settlers
too
that
much.
tried to
The sinking of the Maine
get here
in
before
Havana
me.
Harbor marks the peak of yellow journalism in both its intensity and its influence. In the streets, pro-war sentiment is rising.
There's chants of remember the Maine, to hell with Spain. On the 25th of April, 1898, the United States will declare war against Spain.
Like so many of Roosevelt's ideas, his love of the wilderness, his strenuous life, this hawkishness arises from his own personal narrative.
One of the reasons that he wants to go to war is while he believes his father is the greatest man he ever met, the only thing that tinges him of uncertainty with regard to his father is that he did not fight in the American Civil War.
His father
These
was
Jews need to
certainly
calm
on the
down
Union
converting
side
my people.
and
man.
would have liked to go to war, but he didn't because TR's
These
mother
Iroquois Jews need to calm
was a
down.
Confederate and her brothers were actually officers in the Confederate Navy. So some agreement was made that his father would not go to war because that would actually create war within the family itself. So he did what many other wealthy people did. He bought proxies to go fight on his behalf.
This was an option during the Civil War. If you could afford to, you could hire another man to take your place in battle.
Roosevelt's
So
generation
gay.
grew up hearing stories from their uncles, from their fathers
So
about
gay.
the Civil War. They only hear the stories of glory, not the stories of tragedy. And so when the Spanish-American War was declared, 1 million men volunteered. It's one of the great ironies of war that it both repels and attracts.
Historian Edward Kahn says, this is one of Roosevelt's few disappointments with his father, a man he generally worships.
For Roosevelt, his father did not go off to serve when a generation of American sons and husbands did do that. And so that was something that kind of was a shadow over Roosevelt's view of the war.
Roosevelt is determined not to miss his own opportunity, and yet When the time comes, he is discouraged from joining the fight.
John Long, the Secretary of the Navy, said, no, your duty is to stay at your desk. Twice, President McKinley called him to the White House and asked him not to resign and go to war. But Roosevelt resigned his commission as the Assistant Secretary of the Navy.
I'm going to war, whether you like it or not.
Group of Rough Riders.
Dude, what a
This
gangster,
cavalry
bro.
regiment becomes one of TR's.
President McKinley
is
They're like,
determined
no,
not
sit
to
here
miss
at a
his
desk
own
and push paper
opportunity.
around. He's like, dude, I'm
And
fighting.
yet,
I'm fighting in this.
When the time comes, he is discouraged from joining the fight.
John Long, the Secretary of the Navy, said, no, your duty is to stay at your desk. Twice, President McKinley
I want glory,
asked him
not promotions.
to resign and go to war. But Roosevelt resigned his commission as the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and he rounded up what he called a harem-scarum group of Rough Riders.
This cavalry regiment becomes one of TR's most celebrated accomplishments. It's his chance to bring his Dakota Badlands cowboy experience to a military command.
Right away, he starts to demonstrate a very sophisticated appreciation for what it means to be a leader. Roosevelt was perfectly willing to say, I don't know the answer. I don't know what to do here. He had a willingness to defer to people who knew more than he did.
Teddy Roosevelt's directness, his honesty, and his ability to make a friend of anyone served to make him an unconventional but very successful leader. Tweed Roosevelt is Teddy Roosevelt's great-grandson.
He realized that he didn't have a background in military leadership. So he talked his old friend from the frontier, Colonel Wood, to take the role as colonel, and he was second in command.
People come out of the woodwork as soon as they know that Roosevelt's on the hunt.
And because 23,000 applications came in, he had the cream of the crop.
He recruits his Rough Riders from all walks of life.
Roosevelt got in touch with the football coach at Harvard and with police officers from New York.
He wanted people from out west that were used to hardship, living outside, firearms, riding on horses.
Harvard tennis players and Yale yachtsmen and swells of the aristocracy.
The number one, the number two tennis players in the country quit tennis to become Rough Riders.
These grim frontier
That's so
boys
sick,
who've
dude.
probably never been very far from Wyoming.
What a legend.
Native Americans would be part of this.
What a
Southerners,
legend.
Northerners, rich, poor. It's a remarkable amalgam of the American people.
When they arrive for
Dude,
training,
what a G.
the man they meet
He's like,
is
hey, I need alpha males to come with me. Hey, I'm the alpha of America. I need all the other alphas to come join me.
He's this towering
And they
figure.
did.
They had maybe heard some of the stories of his
And they
life on
did.
a ranch, but he
What a
arrives,
legend, dude.
and he's not as tall as they thought he would be. He was wearing glasses. He had gone out and bought a uniform
Like, who's
at
this
Brooks
nerd?
Brothers.
One can only imagine
Who's
that they
this
were
nerd?
a little bit nervous about him.
And yet, he's out there every morning for drills, 12-mile marches in triple-digit heat.
What a
At
G,
night, he
dude.
would pour through cavalry manuals and combat manuals, and the men love it.
Once he gets them in the training grounds, he has to meld them together to become a unified team. And that's where he excels. Understanding that people from different parts of life have to be able to have a common purpose. And here their common purpose is to be a Rough Rider. Then he becomes a leader. He becomes one of them. Sometimes he got too close to them. After they had done a good job one day in the training camp, he decided, you can have all the liquor you want tonight. It's all on me.
Despite some unorthodox methods, Roosevelt's cavalry is eventually trained, and they are ready, even raring to go.
The Rough Riders will eventually be ordered on the 29th of May to leave San Antonio and head to Tampa.
Here they
When
go.
they get
Here we
there,
go.
there's hardly any organization. Nobody's there to greet
Converting
them.
the Jews of Marrakesh.
Roosevelt discovered
Christians,
that his
baby.
Rough Riders, along with two other
You will
regiments,
now worship the
have all
true
been
Lord and
assigned to the
Savior,
same
Jesus
ship,
Christ.
a ship that has only room to transport one company. TR calls the situation a perfect welter of confusion. Here's historian Edward T. O'Donnell.
It's a real rush job. There's a lot of snafus, as the military would say. But even with all those problems, Roosevelt is not one to lack confidence. He believes that he understands what needs to be done.
Roosevelt marches up to the gangplank boldly, waving a blank piece of paper he pretends contains orders for transport. When the next commander arrives, the Rough Riders are already on board.
Hey, possession is 9/10 of the law. We're already here. That's how he ensures that his Rough Riders will go to Cuba.
The army has
Dude, what a genius.
they have more than 20,000
The
soldiers
cojones,
in
dude.
Tampa.
The cojones
They're
on
only
this
able to
man.
get enough ships to carry about 16,000 men.
Every unit is required to cut. This is an extremely heart-wrenching moment for Theodore Roosevelt to figure out which members of the Rough Riders will not go. Ultimately, they will take about 560 of their men. Most of the horses will be left behind.
They can only afford to bring the horses for the officers. And the Rough Riders had been designed as a cavalry regiment.
They're now going to walk on their feet, and they're going to be employed just like infantry. So their role changes. Whatever they got in their training in San Antonio, they're largely thrown out the window as well.
Roosevelt and a few senior officers will bring their horses, but for the time being, most of the men who make it onto the ship will be cavalry in name only. He writes, "We do not like needing to leave the remainder and having to leave our horses, but we would rather crawl on all fours than not go."
The landing site is a little fishing village called Daiquiri. And the landing does not go smoothly. The seas are rough. There are no landing ships. They only have one large barge to bring things onto the beach.
Trying to get the officers' horses ashore. A lot of them started swimming the wrong way. One of Roosevelt's horses got sucked under. 2 men drowned.
But it's an unopposed landing. That's probably the only thing that really saves them.
Out of all this chaos, TR and his men find themselves in Cuba, undermanned and undersupplied, about to go to war.
When you're ready to pop the question, the last thing you want to do is second guess the ring. At BlueNile.com, you can design a one-of-a-kind ring with the ease and convenience of shopping online. Choose your diamond and setting. When you find the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Go to BlueNile.com and use promo code LISTEN to get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's code LISTEN at
Materials at Burrow.com.
The best way to approach the closest city.
The immediate plan is to secure the path to Santiago, a port city on the southeast coast. They have neutralized the Spanish fleet, which is bottled up at the harbor at Santiago. And the Rough Riders are sent along a range of hills just to the west. It's rougher going. There isn't really much of a trail. The Americans didn't really have maps. There was no real sense of what the territory looked like.
They can't cover a lot of ground. The only horses there are for senior officers, so the reconnaissance mission that would normally be done by horses is not being done. There are 2 reporters with them that make sure the story gets told.
For most of the men, this is their first combat, Roosevelt included, but Roosevelt takes to it very quickly.
Roosevelt comes across a person who imagined himself a soldier but wasn't really a soldier. He could have easily been one of those guys who held back and all, but he was not. He was a person that said, I'm the real deal, and I know that means I have to put my body on the line, and he does.
Here we go. Siam has denounced Indonesia.
Roosevelt's mission.
Siam has joined me in denouncing Indonesia, so we might see if he'll go to war with me. Join me in my war against Indonesia. We'll see. Let's see what's up with that. They also are protecting Buenos Aires. Where's Buenos Aires? Where's Buenos Aires? Buenos Aires. Yeah, let's go 7-7. If not, I'll see if Morocco will join. They're not going to help me much militarily, but that'll just, repay my favor and solidify our friendship if we keep going to war with each other against our enemies. They'll kind of do the same thing, return that favor I just did to them. Basically just being like, yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm going to war against my neighbor. I'm totally with you over here on the other side of the map. So that's kind of my backup option, is maybe he'll go to war with me and be my friend. Keep being my best friend. That's not good. So now I got 2 cities to deal with here. I was hoping that would not happen. I was hoping that would not happen. But whatever. We'll deal with it. Whatever. We'll deal with it. So you can't start out, if I was to declare war right now, I can't start out in their territory. So it's going to move my guys if I did that. And hopefully it's going to move this guy here if they do decide to start this war right now. We might start it right now, folks. And this guy, I wanted to get friends with this guy. I'm probably not going to be friends with Cape Town. They're too expensive to become friends with. So they're probably just going to stay neutral for this during this war because they're allied with Polynesia. I mean, I could see if Polynesia wants to join me in the war, you know. But what we are going to do is see if Siam would be the most damaging. If they said yes to this, shall we declare war against Gajah Mada? No, he is not willing to go to war with me. Can I pay you to go to war with him? Can I pay you to go to war with him? No. They cannot. They will not. Let's see if you want to. Let's see if the Mongols want to go to war with me against them. Against Indonesia. No, he does not want to go to war with Indonesia. Let's do this, bro. What are you doing? Let's do this. Polynesia would probably be my best because they are allied with that city-state. Do you want to declare war against? He's going to say no. All right. Now is my best friend going to return the favor and go to war with me? Shall we declare war against? No. Bro, come on, dude. I was with you, though. I was with you. You can't return the favor and help me out, bro? You can't help me out on this one, bro? Let's see if Persia. They're gonna say no for sure. He's not digging me now that I'm friends with Siam. Come on. Alright, it's me against the world. It's me against the world. It's me against Indonesia. Alright, looks like I'm going it alone against Indonesia. That's fine. That's fine. Everything's fine. I do need to get trade deals, though, before the war starts. Because when you declare war first, if you're the one who declares war first, people start to, like, unfriend you and not like you or give you unfavorable trade deals. So I need to make sure before we go to war, we actually look at all our trade possibilities. And I'm going to do this because I need a little bit of a reserve right now built up. I actually want incense, would actually be really helpful if I could get some incense. Not happening. Definitely not happening. Alright, I do need some trade. Do need some gold. I need some gold reserves going into this. From Gold Penis Hat. I need some money built up, for sure. And you need happiness. If you have happiness while you're at war, that goes so far. It goes so far. So I got a little bit of happiness worked up. I'm at least in the positive. I can increase that by putting units in my cities. So I'm going to try to do that if possible. And start moving my cannons strategically down here. Cannons are really going to win me this war if I can make sure they don't die and I maneuver them effectively and take down some cities. Then I can do some serious damage in this war. This upcoming war is about to go down. Julia Smith, I just followed you. How are you? By the way, I do some crazy artwork. Mind if I can share it with you? Just want some suggestions about my work. Here's my Discord username, Julius Smith. Kindly add me on Discord. Just want some suggestions about my work. No thanks. I'm good. Appreciate the follow, though. And I wish you good luck. Genuinely, good luck. Hope you're doing well. I'm sure you're a great artist. Good luck. I hope you're doing well. I will pray that your art inspires and uplifts people, and that you actually make beautiful works of art and add beauty to this world that we are living in. But I'm good. I don't do Discord. I'm sorry. And I don't do random people in my chat room popping up. Unless I know you. Unless you're here for a while. Unless I learn to trust you. I don't really support anyone just randomly in my chat. No offense. Again, I just don't know you. But good luck. I'll pray for your success. I pray that you make beautiful works of art that inspire and uplift the masses. But we'll get back to it. War's on the horizon. We're about a couple turns away, probably. It's got to go down. The fact that he just built 2 cities here, bad. He's expanding aggressively. I don't like it. And I'm kind of at the point where I have enough firepower and everything kind of set up to support my war. Financially, we're good enough financially. We got to keep this happiness. We got to stay happy, as close to happy as possible, because your units will fight worse. If your empire is unhappy, your units will not be as effective militarily. So it's important to keep this happiness and do my best to destroy their happiness and their economy. So I got to keep my economy going well, and I got to keep my happiness up as we wage this war. And I have to basically destroy their economy and destroy their trade routes and destroy their happiness in order to effectively defeat them, you know? Back to Teddy and his war. Back to Teddy.
The fighting goes on for a couple of hours until finally the Americans rush the Spanish.
It's the first victory for the Rough Riders.
And those reporters make sure this gets reported in the U.S. press. But after the Battle of Las Guasimas, there is a delay. The roads are bad. They're in the rainy season. Supplies go bad.
Which gives the Spanish a lot of time to prepare. Over the next several days, the Spanish dug in a line of trenches and machine gun posts all along this range of hills that's called San Juan Heights.
The Rough Riders need to attack San Juan Heights, the principal defense guarding the approach to Santiago.
There's no way to retreat, so if this doesn't work, they're going to be massacred.
Roosevelt is awake and ready early, in position to lead his Rough Riders up the hill.
The day started with a lot of confusion. Orders weren't coming down. It wasn't clear who was actually in charge.
Theodore Roosevelt is now regimental commander because Leonard Wood has been bumped up to be brigade commander. Roosevelt is chomping at the bit to go, ready to go at 11:20, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And yet there they sit, within range of the Spanish who start to fire at them. They're taking casualties.
This is the moment for showing that he is without fear. This is the peak he's been climbing for so long in his life.
For the Spanish shooting down the slope, the Americans are very vulnerable, and there's nobody who's more vulnerable than Theodore Roosevelt. He's a big target. He's on a horse, and if you're a Spanish soldier, you know that a person on a horse is an officer. And so he had a lot of heavy fire coming his way. Roosevelt has bullets nick off of his clothing, nick off of his boots. His life could have ended right there.
T.R. later writes, I sent messenger after messenger to try to find General Sumner or General Wood and get permission to advance, and was just about making up my mind that in the absence of orders, I had better march toward the guns, when Lieutenant Colonel Dorst came riding up through the storm of bullets with a welcome command to move forward and support the regulars in the assault on the hills in front.
This is the image and the reporting that made him a national hero. Reporters said that nobody who saw him take that ride expected that he would finish it alive.
They get to the top. They overrun the Spanish trenches. After 9 days in Cuba, they've conquered San Juan Hill.
Roosevelt's characteristic bravery and a healthy dose of luck see him through. He emerges from the battle unscathed. He later calls it the great day of my life.
TR called it his crowded hour. This was such a pivotal moment in his life, and all crammed into just 1 hour out of a lifetime.
After this battle, the Americans lay siege to Santiago. The Spanish sue for peace.
He eventually wrote a book about it. Of course, he always writes a book. It's called The Rough Riders, published in 1899. The great Chicago writer Finley Peter Dunne loved to tease the Roosevelt myths. He wrote a review of the book. He said the only problem with the book The Rough Riders is that it's misnamed.
He said that Roosevelt made himself the center of every moment of every action of the war, that he should have called the book Alone in Cuba. The whole country is laughing about this. And what does Roosevelt do? He writes a letter to Finley Dunne, and he says, I regret to tell you that my wife and my most intimate friends are absolutely delighted with your review of my book. Now you owe me one. I'd like you to visit me the next time you come to Washington.
Sick.
He relished that ability to make fun of himself, and he knew it endeared him to his critics. It's again a mark of his maturity as a leader.
So he was able to kind of narrate his own story, and not only is there great exaltation that the U.S. forces have achieved victories, but that there's a hero, there's a person that embodies this triumph, and his name is Theodore Roosevelt.
With the ultimate surrender of Spain at the end of the Spanish-American War, they will give up Cuba. This doesn't become a United States possession, but what the United States does get out of this is Puerto Rico. It also gets Guam and gives the United States control of the Philippines. The United States becomes an imperialistic world power in 8 months.
This is the
What a
anti-isolationist,
G.
globalist worldview Roosevelt had been
Emperor
advocating to
Roosevelt.
President McKinley, to the Secretary
Emperor
of the Navy,
Roosevelt.
in the press, and to anyone who will listen.
The Spanish-American War happens at a time when America
Thank you,
was,
Emperor Roosevelt.
in so many ways, at a crossroads. It was coming out of a depression riven by sectional tensions between North and the South, labor tensions, ethnic tensions, and the world is looking at America going, what is its role going to be as a major power? And the Spanish-American War comes along and it solves so many of those conundrums. It unifies different parts of the country behind a common purpose and against a common enemy. And it gave America a purpose. It allowed it to say, this is what we do with our power. We go and we help other people.
We
It allowed
crush.
America
That's
to
what we
tell
do.
itself a certain story
We
about why
crush.
America needs to be in the world.
And T.R. returns from Cuba, the most famous man in the country.
He is perceived as a hero, and there was a cult of personality that had developed around him. He's been in all these different parts of the country, meeting people from different parts of life, and yet he could connect with them as if he were part of them. And that's the
All right,
important
I
thing.
think
He
next turn
absorbs
we're
different
invading.
areas of America's life into himself and becomes this much larger person. So he represented a mosaic of
So part of me wants to invade next turn. I'm in a really good position. I don't want to keep wasting any more time. And I don't want to keep wasting any more time. I'm in a good position. I got reinforcements coming. I'm going to lose a lot of this army for sure. But what I need to do is really damage them. And what I honestly need to do is have my reinforcements I'm building, maybe like my second army that I build, as these are like kind of dying. I need that army to really do the damage of like conquering and invading. So the first force is almost kind of like a sacrificial force to like soften them up. And my second force is really going to be like my main force here. It's going to do some damage. But I also kind of want to wait for the World Congress. It'd be 2 turns, 3 turns, because they might get mad at me for declaring war and try to hurt me in the Congress. But we'll see. We might just do it anyways. Might just do it anyways next turn. Let's see how things shake out.
In the aftermath of the Spanish-American War, Roosevelt has to decide what he's going to do next. And very quickly, he's encouraged to run for governor. And he seizes that opportunity. He's already been involved in New York
hates
state
Indonesia,
politics, so
though.
he feels like he knows
Korea
that
hates
scene.
Indonesia.
Also, we need to remember in the late 19th century, governors of New York were almost automatically considered viable presidential candidates.
It's a homecoming for T.R., and a particularly useful one for advancing his political ambitions.
New York was the commercial center. It was the wholesale center. New York Harbor was the largest harbor in the Western
Everyone hates
Hemisphere.
Indonesia, dude.
Import-export center of the United States.
All my homies hate Indonesia. all the homies hate Indonesia, bro.
In New
The Republican
Let's all
Party
go to war with
represented
them.
big business, and Theodore Roosevelt was always a part of the reformer wing.
And so the party bosses are not so sure about him being governor. They don't want a reformer in that job.
But as much as the Republican boss in New York, Thomas Platt, can't stand him, he realizes the only chance they have of the Republicans holding on to the gubernatorial seat is if they have a sure thing run for governor.
They figured it was better to win the election with TR than to lose the election. So they backed him.
So Roosevelt just barnstorms, tirelessly goes around the state by train.
Just as he did for McKinley's election, Roosevelt proves himself an adept campaigner. He is as comfortable in front of a crowd as he is in one-on-one conversation. And his energy is boundless.
He does the whistle stops, travels to more towns, cities, parts of the state than anyone.
Giving speech after speech after speech.
TR is really the first modern campaigner.
He is perfectly primed for the new kind of politics, which emphasizes a public persona, which emphasizes romanticism, which emphasizes celebrity.
He campaigns with the Rough Riders. He has them stump for him. He has them introduce him.
In 1898, he ultimately wins what turns out to be a very close race.
At the time that TR becomes governor, he's a larger-than-life figure.
He's called the boy governor. He's only 41 years old, and he brings his young family with him to Albany. So there's life and there's energy in that governor's mansion. He meets with people all day long. He's on his feet. He never sits behind his desk, and he starts getting things done. Roosevelt had been arguing for years, actually, that social welfare and human rights were more important than property rights. A big thing to say at that time.
Reformers argued that as stewards of the public trust, we have to make sure that poor people live under much more improved conditions by holding the city and state accountable rather than those individuals.
TR as governor knows that he doesn't command either the loyalty or the control of the Republican Party bosses. And so once again, he turns to the press as his ally. And so he fights legislative battles through the press. He leaks things to the press. He pushes his progressive agenda through the press.
Roosevelt goes up against big
What I want to do
business
is, okay,
implementing
we're pivoting a little bit. We're going to stall a little bit. I kind of want to move my military through his land while I still have open borders with him, which could, I thought by now they'd be over. I think there's a way to see that somehow, right? Deal history. Deal duration 32. Oh, it's a while. So I got a while. What I want to do is move my unit, my army preemptively here. This is going to cause problems for me. Him putting this here, not good. So actually, if I can, want to put my army like on this side of this city for the most part, and I'll come attack this city first, and then I'll almost go this way. Boom, boom. And just kind of play defense against any reinforcements. He'll be sending reinforcements up this road. I bet probably a little bit here in this city, but for the most part, he's going to try to like scramble and send his army this way. And if I can like cut that off and just really like from this direction, from the west, hit his reinforcements as they're coming up, then I can like actually attack this city, siege it, and capture it. Getting this city is going to be like my priority. So I need to like do whatever I can to siege this effectively and capture it as fast as possible with as minimal amount of casualties. And then I'm going to have to siege and capture this. I'll probably destroy it because it's not really having much value other than just being there. And even this, I might just capture this and destroy this as well. It also doesn't hold much value other than just be annoying to me. But really then I'm going to like siege and capture this. So Surabaya and Makassar, I'm going to add to my empire if I can do this all successfully. If this doesn't fail miserably. If everything I'm doing right now doesn't fail miserably, then I'm going to add those two cities in my empire and destroy these two cities. That's like my goal right now. That is my goal as of this moment. So yeah, we got about 5 more turns. I gotta set myself up for war here, more effective. I gotta be more effectively set up for this war that's coming. Give me 5 more turns,
making
guys.
conditions of work better, an 8-hour
Give me a
day,
couple more turns here,
protections
guys.
for women and children who were working in factories.
It'll also buy us enough time to go
and he also
after this
set
World
aside land
Congress
for
and not have them
conservation.
hate me.
He was always going, always busy, always full of ideas, and certain in what he was going to do.
Through all the different parts of his career, there's a sense of urgency to get things done. He said, if you're thinking at every moment, where am I now and how am I bettering myself for the future? You're going to be too cautious. You're going to be too worried about yourself. Instead, you give everything to that job because everything can change in a moment. So he goes for the kill, which is a tax on businesses who own franchises in public spheres, electric railroads, telephone lines. Here were these huge franchises making millions of dollars in profits, and they weren't paying
Sounds
any
like TR,
taxes
sounds
to
like
the
Trump,
state.
yeah.
And he thought that that was essential, that they pay their fair share.
Never stops moving.
During his brief time as governor, Roosevelt signs nearly 1,000 bills into law, including those that tax corporations, limit work hours for women and children, improve factory conditions, and protect forests. But not everyone is impressed with his accomplishments, particularly his moves toward corporate taxation.
The New York State Republican boss, Tom Platt, thought that this was a terrible idea. This smacked of socialism.
And the tax thing is what really got to the Republican leaders. So they do not want him to have a second term because he's too much of a reformer for the political bosses.
Thomas Platt was figuring, okay, so what am I going to do here? How am I going to get rid of this guy?
Less than a year before the presidential election of 1900, McKinley's vice president, Garrett Hobart, dies in office.
And see, he has an army. He has a big army here. He's coming for me while I'm coming for him. So who's going to win this? Who's going to outmaneuver the other? Both of us are coming for each other. Both of us right now are coming for each other. So the war is on, for sure. It's just who pushes that button. Basically, the war has begun right now. We're just... Literally, the war has begun. Unofficially, it's just who's going to push the button first. That's kind of where we're at right now. Who's going to push that button? Who's going to fire that first shot? That's kind of where we're at. Who's going to fire the first shot? That's kind of just all we're at right now. Is moving each other around so that we can, one of us can hit that first shot most effectively. If you see, he's moving an army up. He's moving some units up this way. Yeah, we're going to vote against Judaism becoming the world religion. We're going to vote against Judaism becoming the world religion, guys. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. We're going to vote against that. We're going to vote nay on that, actually.
So the bosses devise what they think is the perfect solution.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make him vice president of the United States.
This great scheme hatched by the power brokers in the Republican Party that they'll
Oopsie
kick
daisy.
Roosevelt upstairs. They'll promote him into oblivion. That he will become McKinley's vice president and essentially never heard from again.
Roosevelt reluctantly agrees to John McKinley's ticket in the 1900 election. And when McKinley wins his second term, TR is almost disappointed. He complains, "This election tonight means my political death." He's not well suited to the role of vice president.
It's a perfectly dignified but perfectly useless position.
Yeah.
This was a job that nobody liked. One vice president famously said, "It's being vice president is worth a bucket of warm spit."
It's a really interesting question why Roosevelt accepts the vice presidency. In some ways, it's a reflection of his own self-confidence to say, I know other vice presidents have
Okay,
failed
good.
to
Judaism
go
is
on
not
to
the world
presidency,
religion. Good.
But I'm different. I think he also had a sense that it was an opportunity he couldn't refuse.
In steps Henry Cabot Lodge, who says that this is the position you need to be in to set yourself up for a presidential run in 4 years. Take the vice presidency, sit on your hands for 4 years, and you will have the ultimate prize in 1904.
But Roosevelt is not one to sit on his hands. In fact, there is nothing he likes less.
Of course, immediately once he takes that job, he begins to regret it and begin to realize this is not much fun. He's the great advocate of the strenuous life, but he finds out very quickly that the opposite of the strenuous life is to be vice president of the United States.
TR hates being vice president. McKinley gives him no responsibilities, asks no advice, and he feels perfectly worthless. He's in a position that is so boring for him that he's even considering going to law school.
Mark Hanna, who is one of McKinley's closest advisors, thinks TR is an absolute maniac. And so when McKinley and Roosevelt win the election, Mark Hanna says to McKinley, your only responsibility these next 4 years is to make sure that you live so that madman doesn't become president.
But it's a promise McKinley will be unable to keep.
In fall of 1901, America is riding high. McKinley has just presided over a splendid little war, which has greatly increased the reach and the footprint of the United States globally. The economy is booming. The Republican Party is strong. There's a palpable sense of progress and of technological achievement. At that moment, something called the automobile is being invented. People are seeing them on the streets, this self-propelling vehicle, which at the time is simply mind-blowing. And there are people experimenting with flight.
Ottomans hate Indonesia. That's big, dude. The whole world, all the superpowers of the world right now hate Indonesia. And perfect time for me to launch an invasion. So when I attack, or if they attack first when we go to war, yeah, Polynesia hates them too. Everyone cool hates Indonesia in this game. But yeah, when I go to war, that's going to be very helpful to me that they are all mad. They're going to still not like that I go to war with them, the people of the world. They're going to be mad, especially if I start like actually winning and conquering countries and stuff, or conquering his cities and taking territory. Not going to be happy with me, but at least it's not going to be as bad. If they're like friendly with Indonesia, it'd be pretty bad. It'd be pretty damaging to me. But dude, see, everyone hates them, man. Everyone hates them. So that's gonna be good for me. I'm gonna accumulate less hate points from the other
in middle-class homes. It's illuminating streets of cities. And so McKinley decides to go to the Buffalo Pan American Exposition. This event showcases technology, showcases of progress, and his final event is the meet and greet. It's going to be a big crowd. His security staff is worried, but McKinley shrugs off all their concerns, and he goes and he begins pumping the flesh and meeting lots and lots of people.
McKinley had entered his second term of office as one of the most popular presidents in decades. On September 5th, a record crowd of 116,000 attends his speech at the World's Fair.
McKinley insists on doing a receiving line. He wants to get his glory moment.
The reception takes place the next day at the Temple of Music Theater. Several of McKinley's staff worry that the event puts the president at risk and try to cancel it. McKinley ignores their advice. A Bach sonata plays on the organ as a long line of well-wishers wait in the sweltering heat. In the line is Leon Czolgosz, an impassioned anarchist, still bitter over the loss of his factory job in a labor dispute a few years earlier. Czolgosz finally reaches the front of the reception line. As McKinley reaches to shake his hand, Czolgosz draws a pistol and fires 2 times. The first shot grazes the president. The other strikes McKinley in the abdomen. The president dies 8 days later when this wound turns gangrenous. Theodore Roosevelt finds himself suddenly the 26th President of the United States.
Theodore Roosevelt becomes, at 42 years old, the youngest president of the United States in history.
Roosevelt could never have walked in the front door of the White House. The Republicans never would have nominated him for president.
Roosevelt's a fighter. He's always a fighter. Now the fight is escalating.
That's next time on Making Teddy. Making Teddy is a podcast from the History Channel, produced by Best Case Studios. For the History Channel, Jesse Katz, Eli Lara, Mary Donahue, and Jennifer Wagman are the executive producers. McKamey Lynn, supervising producer. Ben Dickstein, the senior producer.
I actually might need to go.
The executive producer for Best Case.
We might end that there. We might, one more turn here. We'll set myself up. We'll talk about what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the save button. I got to go eat, y'all. I haven't eaten. I'm going to go watch some football with my roommates. And then I got a poker game tonight. I'm in a Christian Guys poker tournament tonight. I had to go get ready for that. So I got to eat, watch a little football, and go win at poker. And I got to go win some money for my Christian brothers. I got to go gamble with my Christian brothers, bro. My brothers in Christ. I'm going to take their money. But yeah, we're setting up ourselves pretty well. They've got enough of an army here that this isn't going to be easy. This is going to be pretty brutal. I'll probably lose most, if not all, of like the troops you see right here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. We'll have a Memorial Day in your honor. But the plan is I'm kind of moving to this side. I want to, for the most part, have a big force on this side of his empire. Kind of attacking from here, where I can kind of keep constantly sending the new units I build. I can keep sending them on this road this way. So I'm going to have constant, like, fresh reinforcements coming this way for the most part from the east. But really, I want my main fighting force here kind of attacking in this open field. This is kind of where I want the battle to really happen, is like right here in this open field. And I want the siege to happen on this side of his city. Just the way the geography is. When he put this city here, it really messed a bunch of stuff up. If he would have just moved this like one tile farther away, it messed it up. Because he's going to be able to, 2 tiles out, attack me. And it's just not, overall, it's just not good. It's hard to explain, but I just can't really stage my army, which my original plan was like in these 4 squares, kind of staging my army and attacking this way into the city. But with this, he's going to be able to attack me. And he kind of blocked my road. I made this road so that I could send armies this way, here, so that I could send my armies kind of this way to this road to cut off this road from this city. So my original plan was to kind of attack from the east at this city, this way, and be sending reinforcements almost east and south of my siege to cut off, to come here and like cut off his reinforcements. If he attempts to lift the siege, to break the siege by sending more reinforcements up the road here, my plan was to send new units down to cut him off here. That was my original plan, was just to send a bunch of people this way, capture the city, and then send my new fresh units south to basically just stifle and prevent him from lifting the siege, breaking the siege, and sending new units up the road. But since he put this city here, it's not easy for me to do that anymore. Because as I'm going on his road, it's now less fast for me to travel on the roads with my units. And then he can also attack them as they come. He can put units here that get advantages when they attack from the city. He can also do that like thing where the city fires upon anyone close enough. So as I send units now, that original plan is like scrapped now that he put the city here. So he did a really good job, a really annoyingly good job of putting this city right here. That my original plan to send those units this way is now I have to redirect my units. So that's why I kind of redirected, and I'm sending units to this side of his empire so that I can siege him from this side, and I can potentially use these armies to cut off his reinforcement attempts this way. So instead of sending new units this way to the road, I'm basically sending my army here to constantly be able to cut off his armies and his units here and have the fighting kind of be on the road right here / in this field right here. And if I can kind of do this and just really effectively hurt his armies and his attempts to send more units up, I can kind of, in a longer sense, I'm playing a longer game of capturing the city, whereas I thought it would probably take like 5 or 10 turns. It's probably now going to take like 20 turns. But what I'm going to do is kind of bring the fighting here from the get-go, from the start, and just cause havoc and hopefully kill as much of his units as possible. And then what I can do is send my new units to siege this city. So my new units will come from the seas or come this way and siege this city. And I'll already have my old units here preventing him from sending reinforcements. So that's kind of my strategy. That's kind of what's going to happen. Again, this game is like you can have the greatest plan ever, and then the second he puts one city somewhere, it's like your whole game plan has to shift. Everything has to shift around. So it's just a chess match, you know? You can't just like do the plays you want to do. You have to react to the plays he's making as well. So him putting that city there and him having some units here kind of convinced me that I should actually move strategically my armies to this side of his empire for at least the initial part of the war. And again, these flat fields are probably where I want the fighting to happen. The more fighting that happens on hills and forests, it's just, sometimes it's good if you control those. You have military advantage, military bonus hit points, and the attacker, like if this person was going to attack me here, if this musketman wanted to attack one of these guys, one of my guys here, he would lose hit points because my guys are on hills and they're in forests. So you want to kind of control the hills, you want to control the high ground, you want to control the forests, but you also don't want to meet the opponent there. So if I can, what I want to do is almost lure his guys into these open field areas here, these plains areas here, so that when I attack them, I don't have a disadvantage. I also want to make sure my guys are happy because that gives me an advantage. So I need happy troops, I need well-funded troops, and I want to be attacking in this area right here, if at all possible. I'm going to have to, at some point, attack on the roads. So it's like I can't do that perfectly, but in general, if I can lure them over here and have the battles being waged over here with me in the forests and me in the high ground and him on the plains, that would be ideal. So we'll advance one more time. We'll see what he does, and we'll save this game, and I'll end this stream. Send any last comments or questions you have for me. I'm going to get on with my day. I may or may not be back tomorrow, probably not. And I may or may not be back Monday, probably not. I have Monday off of work. My birthday is Sunday. My birthday is tomorrow. So thank you in advance to anyone sending me birthday wishes. I love you. I appreciate you. But I have Monday off, paid day off for my birthday. It's pretty sweet. And I may or may not stream. I might just relax. I might catch up on stuff I need to do. I might be back here with like a post-birthday stream. We'll see. We'll see how much I'm itching to get this war going. I've been setting this up now for 2 streams, and it's finally upon us. We're probably about 2 or 3 turns away from actually getting on with the exciting part. The wars, the diplomacy, all of the fun things are starting to happen. It only took us like 15 hours to set it up. It only took us like 12, 15 hours to set it all up. I came to listen to your interview with Steven, but saw you were live, so this worked too. Yeah. Sweet. They want to ban crab and they want to promote the sciences. That's cool. Unit was disbanded because my economy is so bad. So yeah, we'll save this. We'll end the stream. Thank you guys. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Love it. Love you. Appreciate you. Again, yeah, just I may or may not be back tomorrow night. I may or may not be back Monday. But at some point we will be back, and the war is on. The war is on, and we will continue converting the heathens and the degenerates of this fictional map. We will get on with our war against Indonesia and do what we can to capture Surabaya and Makassar and destroy these two cities. And once that happens, it's just all roads lead to Jakarta. All roads lead to the capital of Jakarta, where there's probably going to be a massive, big, bloody war here at some point in the future to take Jakarta and eliminate them from contention in the game. Make it so they're not an enemy to me at all. And then I can pretty much, after that, focus my sights on the rest of the map. These guys are going to be pretty good. Darius and Siam, they're going to be in a perpetual war, but whoever wins that war is going to be a late game threat for sure. Same thing with Japan and Morocco. They're going to be at war sooner or later, and whoever wins that is going to be a big late game threat no matter what. Every other country is kind of just medium threat. Polynesia is sneaky. They're a sneaky threat. They have some colonies here. They control the Adriatic Sea, and they're making moves. They're making money moves, and they haven't really been threatened unless Persia, for whatever reason, decides to come invade them. They have kind of been left alone. And again, they're pretty good in the sciences and the culture. So they're pretty good. Korea is basically just waiting to be invaded by Ottomans. They're basically just sitting ducks down here, just buying time before the Ottomans decide to come invade them. I'm actually surprised the Ottomans didn't win this war. So Morocco did win the war and conquered some land, these two cities, from the Iroquois Jews. But yeah, I'm actually very surprised that the Ottomans didn't do better in that war and capture some of this land and territory. So the Iroquois are holding their own, but it's almost a matter of time before they really do send a big military force to come conquer these four cities. That's almost inevitable, is that the Ottomans over here, who are definitely in first place and definitely on track to win this game, they're at some point going to come for these four cities. And if they don't, if they literally just keep losing and keep losing and keep losing, that would be the best case scenario for me. If these two just kept staying at war and not defeating each other and just distracting each other and depleting each other's resources, that would be best case scenario for me. But I do think Ottomans are probably eventually going to win this war, conquer these guys, conquer all of Turkey, conquer all of like Russia and that whole area, that whole like Georgia area and Armenia and Syria. They're in Lebanon. They're creeping down through Jerusalem right now. They're at some point probably going to come take Egypt. So they're at some point going to be a massive, huge empire all over like Turkey and the Levant and Syria and Israel and Jordan and Egypt. And they're going to be the big late game threat. I think at the end of the game, I'm going to have like a big giant empire over here that's going to be in a really good standing. I'll probably at some point have to take Arabia. I'll probably at some point have to conquer Indonesia, have all of France and Spain and Italy, and then probably have to do some fighting in North Africa first. But when I kind of get control of this whole western half of the map, eventually, in like 50 more hours, it's been 15 hours to set this up. Let's say 50 more hours of playing. Whenever I finally get control of all of this, at that point in time, I bet Ottomans have control of all of this and potentially are going to war with Japan and Morocco for the rest of that. So it's going to set up a big, like, the Western Empire controlled by me versus the Eastern Empire controlled by the Ottomans is kind of my prediction of the way this is going to play out. But we'll see. Anything could happen. They could just keep losing this war and basically just be giant sitting ducks, and Japan could just come invade them. Korea could just bide their time and just chill, and then they could be so weak and ineffective that they could just start invading and conquering land city by city, you know. So it really depends on what happens, what they decide to do, what they, you know, they're in first place now. It looks like they could just continue to be in first place and dominate the rest of the game. Or if they just keep doing stupid things like starting wars with people they can't beat And they just keep doing that, and maybe they do that with Japan up here in places I can't see yet. Maybe they keep doing that, keep doing stupid mistakes, getting defeated militarily. They could have this giant, huge empire and be in first place right now, but honestly end up losing miserably. So we'll see how this all plays out. And then, Polynesia is a sneaky wild card. Like I've been saying the whole time, the Mongols are a sneaky little wild card over here. They're not going to win, but what they can do is have a big enough military, and they are militarily aggressive, that they could come take these two. That would really help. If I was at war with Indonesia and the Mongols decided to attack these two cities, that would be sick. That would be dope, dude. I would really, really love and appreciate the Mongols if they did that. That would help me out. But at some point, they're coming for Siam and Persia over here. And they're not going to win the game. They are just so far behind, I think, that they're not going to win the game. But again, like I've been saying, they're just the wild card where they could really, if these two countries keep fighting at war with each other, keep fighting each other and depleting each other of resources and dividing each other and not really making any ground, the Mongol hordes could sweep across the desert and take these unguarded, undefended cities over here. If these cities are over here fighting and they forget about the Mongols to the west coming and just conquering, the hordes conquering through the plains and deserts. So that's going to be interesting to see. That is what the Mongols end up doing. They're going to be a sneaky wild card. And then, the Polynesians are a sneaky wild card. Arabia is pretty much just waiting to be conquered by me at this point. I think they're really just literally waiting to be conquered by me. That's kind of what's happening with that. And again, Japan, and this is an inevitable war that's going to happen. I'm moving this scout here. I'm going to just waste. To me, it's valuable enough to see this war when it happens. So I want visibility over here with this scout and just stay neutral with these two countries as much as possible and just watch this war because it is inevitably happening right here. So with that, did I save it? I'll save it just in case I forgot. I think I did. But I'll save it. I'll end the stream. Thank you guys. Thanks for the birthday wishes, said my boy. 07's in the chat from my boy, Said of Acanthus. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll just say I'll probably be back Monday. Maybe tomorrow night, but probably tomorrow night or Monday. And we'll get this war going. We've been setting this up, and we'll finally get this game rocking and rolling. The war rocking and rolling. And really the most interesting parts of all the game. Really. All the intricate diplomacy that's going to start happening, the wars that are going to start happening. We're going to get rocking and rolling shortly on the next stream, the next 4-hour stream I do, where we play this. Until then, love you guys. Be good, do good, love and be loved. Make good choices out there tonight. It's Saturday night. Have fun, learn a lot, be safe. And I think that's it. Take care, y'all.